Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. I'm here with T Bunny and Marcus, and as always, for it's clobber time. It's an open invite. So here's the link if anybody wants to pop in. I got a few little rules. You got to have a mic and a camera, and try to keep it around 4 people or so.
I don't know why they want to see me.
Yeah, it just makes it seem like a conversation. And as right now, a little bit of housekeeping. Excuse me. Heroic Tales should be at my house next week. They said by Wednesday, and then I will start shipping. First mails will probably be going out Friday because I'm not going to work on Friday. I'm going to get my monthly MRI, so I will have an extended weekend to fulfill comics. So
are you working Monday?
I'm off Monday. Veterans Day. The job site is closed. There's only a couple of people working, and I don't know. I am so beat up after 3.5 months off. I am so beat up. They asked me because they're trying to do the right thing. They know I'm out of money, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna have a full paycheck for like a month because Monday's off, Friday I'm going to the doctor, and then what? Like Thanksgiving is gonna be 2 days off. You know what I mean? And in my job, you don't get paid. You don't work, you don't pay. So you take off. Yeah. So that's fun, but still, it still beats the $200 a week I was living off of for disability. So that's always fun.
Right.
Yeah, I got you.
It's not too much fun.
So anyway, enough bitching and complaining. But so I'm so excited to start fulfilling comics next week. I had a 2-week hiccup because formatting issues. Stuff I'm not. Like I said, making a comic book is fun. Cooper and Marcus can tell you, drawing it, writing it, getting the art, getting the colors. And you know what was the best part? Not to make anything sound bad, but seeing it lettered was the funnest.
Yeah, well,
yeah, that's when it all looks like.
Yeah, that's when it's a comic book. Oh, I was like, oh my God, it was so cool. But we just had little formatting issues. I never did it before. So, like on the back, you could see it had a full bleed. This is the proof. But on the front, there were lines. You know what I mean? And I know I would get teased. And then I keep bringing this up, but just to show you how stupid I am, I swapped the files, and I sent the colored pages, but not the lettered pages. So this whole page had nothing. And I'm like, I can't send it out like that. I can't.
Well, as long as you don't pull an Adam Post, you'll be okay.
What did Adam Post do?
Well, when you got the comic, it was like little squares of panels, and there's like about that much edge on it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I after going through all that, I'm kind of sympathetic.
Well, it turns out he was just like he's basically buying web comics and then and putting them out as his own under his own brand is what he was doing. So I sent out all the digital files. The digital files didn't have that error. Just right. When I formatted the old print, I messed up. I sent the wrong file.
That's pretty.
I'm trying to be more organized. I'm already on top of it. Issue number 2, the Mary Sue story, is almost done. Yeah. And then we're gonna do a fun little comic strip, and then we're gonna go to the Patriarchs. The Patriarch story will be last. And if I hit a stretch goal, I'll be hiring Ron Mosicki again to do a backup story. But
can't go wrong with Ron.
I think you should wait for the stretch goal this time.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait for the stretch goal. Yes.
I'm teasing you.
Well, it's gonna be 15-page Mary Sue story, 22-page Patriarch story.
No, that's a big
3-page. So you know what I mean. You're gonna get the same size comic book, but I'll wait for the stretch goal because I got to. It's smart business. Plus, Ron said he's booked up for like a couple of months.
He looks really busy with the pages he's posted on Twitter, right? They're awesome.
I think the whale is what it's called, something like that.
But he is so quick.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I've got a couple pages from him. I was just to see if he, was able to do a book for me, and I got 2 pages back, and then I didn't have anything right away, and so he had to move on immediately. So it's like, oh, okay, dude,
Well, he runs his own business.
Yeah.
He's married and he has kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he just knows how to allocate his time. He ain't playing. We got Matt Barron. Are you gonna come in, Matt? You're gonna come in. The water's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And we got Jay Lucid already saying Hawkman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Got Alex Johnson. I love both characters, but I got to be Hawkman because he's immortal. And Zach Tan, here's my blessing. Thank you. I feel uncomfortable unless I get my blessing.
Well, depending on how you got Warren Worthington third, he might be immortal too. So, yeah.
Well, I don't know. We tend to skew a little.
He's got angels, so that's pretty much immortal right there.
Neither of us have read all the super modern comics, so we tend to try to find the most pure version of each character. Of course, with Hawkman, it's really difficult.
Yeah,
because there's been 700 of them.
Okay, so Cooper, since you're new, who would you like to pick as your champion, Hawkman or Archangel? Oh yeah, Archangel's so tell us about Archangel then.
Okay, Archangel is the alter ego of Warren Worthington III. It started out in X-Men as the Angel, and then the lovely Mrs. Simonson decided that he needed to upgrade. So during the mutant massacre, he lost his wings. It turns out Cameron, his supposed to be his friend and business partner, turned out to be a racist against mutants. Basically had him attempted murder, and but he was plucked out of the exploding jet by a certain individual called Apocalypse, who Louise Simonson actually created to do this.
That's right. I forgot about that.
That's right.
Yeah. And so using advanced technology that nobody really understands, he converted him to his 4 horsemen death, and gave him metallic wings, which he went from being pretty fast to actually flying like speeds up in excess of like Mach 3. And the wings also create blades, which he can hurl, and they also can slice when he anything he wants. And
now, they were like organic wings, right? They grew back.
They're bioorganic.
Okay.
Same. It's basically the same thing that created Cable. The arm of Cable. It's kind of like a virus. Okay.
Did they have a name for that metal or
techno-organic viruses basically? But it's basically the same thing that converted his wings, and they thought they went dormant for a little while, and then X-Force happened, circa I don't know about 2020, somewhere in there. Maybe no, it's earlier, like 2010 to 2015. And it turned out that his wings were basically nanotechnology.
Yeah, nanotechnology was the thing for a long time.
Yeah,
for a long time, that's right.
They were quantum for a while, then they were nanotech for a while.
Well, so they injected them into like other beings to create wings, and then suddenly Archangel, which has been dormant for a while, he'd been back to Archangel for a little while. Suddenly burst out of him again, and he went and slaughtered everybody. And so now he is with Archangel. It's almost like a Hulk. It's almost like a alter ego personality, and on several occasions he's lost control of it. In the mutant,
he goes
the mutant pits of Genosha. Remember that storyline when Genosha was like.
I remember that story. I do the original Genosha. Yeah,
that was Cameron. Cameron came back after he decapitated him. He came back as a demonic entity.
I remember that.
Right. but he took Warren's he was taking mutant powers, but Warren, he couldn't take his wings from him, but he took his ability to control his wings. And he and Wolverine were about to get into it, and he would kill Wolverine because Wolverine's didn't have his healing factor. And Jean Grey got between them, and she says, "You're not this person. You can control those wings. I know you can." And he was like, "Get out of the way. I don't want to hurt you." She's like, "You can control these wings, and you're going to control them." And so he managed to control them. And so that's always like him in a nutshell for me, that moment.
Right. If I remember correctly, and it's been a long time, I think this series of X-Men I just read when it came off the shelf and never reread. Yeah. At this point, I was reading way too many comics and couldn't really reread stuff. But if I remember correctly, he was taken by Apocalypse, and then his brain got all messed up, and he was like almost like a subservient.
Yeah.
Almost like he was one of the 4 horsemen of the Apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
Which one was he? I forget.
He was Death.
He was Death.
That's right.
Yeah. But that moment where Jean appealed to him, she says the same person that broke free of Apocalypse is still in there, and you can control these wings. And and so she had the confidence to stand in front of him with the wings and the blades, and he managed to control the wings even without his mutant power. So that just shows the strength of will that he has.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about so that's pretty much his story. His big foe obviously is Apocalypse, because Apocalypse against his will transformed him into a different form, and basically took away his agency, his freedom. Didn't he also have like those darts that came out of his wings? Didn't they also paralyze?
Yeah, they're feathers, but they're like blades.
Right.
Blades,
Did they have an energy that paralyzed you, or am I misremembering?
I believe there's some kind of like
poison
on them, or like a nerve agent, basically.
Yeah, something like I vaguely remember that, but see, this one to me is going to be the hardest matchup. So I was kind of hoping you two guys would do the heavy lift.
The thing I remember about the Simonsons when they took over X Factor were tasked, or they felt that these are the old time X-Men. They all had to be powered up.
Right.
It was always with a tragic thing, like Iceman. It was too much, and then Beast could get really stronger, but he was getting stupider.
Yeah,
and then and Cyclops. Well, Cyclops was already really powerful, but still, same. It was always with a tragic twist, and that was their thing. That these old time X characters, because. Yeah. Now I was reading up on Angel, Archangel, Angel, and Angel said they had enhanced strength. Well, I never knew that Angel had enhanced strength. I knew.
He did.
Will Adams' costume.
He did.
I love that costume.
Yeah, that's a great costume.
That's great. So I kind of get it. Like, there's much better character, more powerful character in the more dangerous superhero.
Well, he was becoming kind of a joke. He was kind of like the Aquaman of Marvel. Like Aquaman, they're always making a joke. Aquaman talks to like fish, and that's his power.
But Aquaman's really powerful. We went through.
Yeah, but that was like the normies were like making fun of it.
I know.
They made fun of Angel. It's like, all he does is fly, right? And so basically Louis Simonson was like giving the edict that we need to give him an edge or something. And she's like, "You want edge? I'll give you edge." And as brilliant genius that she is, she realized that she needed to change agent, and so she came up with Apocalypse on the spot to so she could transform Angel. That's how brilliant this woman is. Okay.
Oh, yeah, she's a great writer.
I mean, she's the goddess. I mean, she's my favorite writer of all time. But so she came up with Apocalypse, and she came up with the idea because she thought the 4 horsemen thing, and the motif, and it's like 4 horsemen of what? 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And so she's like, what if Apocalypse was a dude? What if Apocalypse was a guy? And so she went from there, and then and basically the whole entire thing about the mutant massacre, she basically was the architect of the mutant massacre, and she basically made the mutant massacre to reach that limit to where she could get Warren Worthington like nailed to the wall, and then she had the whole thing.
She really doesn't get enough credit. for the creation. She doesn't get enough credit for Cable. She gets no credit because Rob won't let her have any credit.
Yeah,
and Rob is really rough with credit.
Right.
She had a lot. She literally co-created Cable and a lot of Boom Boom.
Well, if she hadn't sent Nathan into the future, then we wouldn't have Cable.
That's right.
And for the longest time, nobody knew who Cable was, and then she basically. So by the way, Nathan Summers is in the future, so maybe he came, and he came from the future, and then somebody's like, "Bing! Oh, okay."
They had a pretty cool miniseries with Gene Ha drew it.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, but she basically
by X-Men, John.
Well, I remember seeing Archangel. I remember seeing Archangel, and I didn't realize that was Angel. And I was telling somebody, I was like, that guy would kick Angel's ass, and they're like, well, that guy is Angel. I was like, holy shit, But
I always liked, and then for a while he went back to his Neil Adams costume, and he had the blue face, and he kind of had like steel wing. That was my favorite.
I
love that white, down the middle with it was red, and then it was blue
with the halo on the middle. Yeah,
the halo.
I love that costume.
But then he had those imposing metal wings.
Right.
I thought that was just so freaking cool.
It was that great cover by Steve Epting. What was the X-Men? It wasn't the annual. It was with Psylocke. What an awesome cover that was. Yeah.
Yes, that was a good one. I never liked the the one with it kind of looked like a Kirby-esque with all the lines, his original Archangel costume.
Oh, I always liked that one a little better because it just looked fast.
It looked fast. It looked.
I mean, it was all sharp edges, and
I know it's Well, that was his really his villain costume. He was learning to be Warren again at that point, and so they had him with the long hair again, and handsome and stuff because he was trying to be Warren at that point when he had the other. Oh, that was the villain costume. So you might not supposed to like it as much.
Well, there was like a scene in that X Factor, that X Force. Basically, they became a Black Ops team, right? That Scott had instituted to kind of defend mutant kind and do whatever dirty tricks necessary to defend mutant kind. And
I remember that.
Right, and one of the things that happened was they stole Warren's wings. They cut off his wings, and then they took the nanotechnology out of his wings and like injected them into these like racist people to make like a chorus. They called it a chorus of like winged men. And then suddenly Warren Worthington starts going completely nuts once they started doing this. I mean, completely nuts. He started throwing people around the room. And then suddenly the metal wings just burst out of his back. And the costume came back along with the metal wings. And he like took off, like just screaming, into the night. And they rushed after him to try to catch it. They couldn't catch up to him because he's going like Mach 3, right?
Right. I remember he was super fast. Yeah.
And then he gets there and he just slaughters like everybody that had those wings. Just slaughters them.
Like and those metal wings, he could use them as like blades.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And they had metal wings, but they weren't Archangel. Okay. Right. And he slaughters the whole whole group of them. And when they arrive, he like converts back to Angel, and he has like the regular wings, but he's like laying there naked in this pile of bodies, and it's the most beautiful panel I've ever seen. It's so incredible. It's so gothic and so like apocalyptic.
And but his wings have like jets too.
Well, yeah, they had like his protrusions, kind of like a aerialons, like on a. Yeah,
I was really because this matchup came up a few times for comic book team up, but I was always reluctant because I don't remember Archangel that much,
Well,
fortunately,
right.
He remembers everything about him.
Yeah, so good job. You showed up. You're the hero.
Well, I had to defend my boy.
So let's just run down his. So he was the mutant angel who basically he was just a guy with wings.
Yeah.
He didn't have any sonar senses or halo senses.
He was stronger than human. His wings were actually strong enough to break a man's arm, so it wasn't like they were like fragile or anything.
He was able to flap those wings and still carry somebody like the Beast. So he had to be tougher than the
he had a lot of lift to them, and he was pretty fast with them, but not Archangel level fast. Archangel.
But then when he transformed to Archangel, super speed.
Yeah.
Right. We could see super speed.
He was a jet. He was basically a jet at that point.
He was like a flying jet, and the wings themselves were blades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I remember he could fire like bladed feathers. They look like knives.
Mm-hmm.
And
with a neurotoxin on them. So yeah.
And didn't he have like a healing?
He does have a healing factor. Not on the level of a Wolverine or Deadpool, but it does have a healing factor. Okay. It's part of his angelic nature. I think they said later. So
the nanotechnology wanted to be whole?
Yeah. Yeah, the nanotechnology or whatever was inside of him, when it sensed that other like these other creatures were being made with the same nanotechnology, that could not stand, and so he went into kill mode, and he just like
it messed up his mind.
He was like decapitating people and just like running, and just like breast swaths of people were just got cut in half. I mean, he just went crazy. And it was like slaughter, and it was beautiful. I think Brandon Choi drew it, but it was just amazing panel.
So Marcus, you want to tell us about Hawkman?
Well, there's about 2 main Hawkmen, and it's very complicated.
You could be talking.
So you had from the golden age of Carter Hall,
mm-hmm.
who's a descendant from Egypt who gets reincarnated, and he always is linked to Shaira Hall,
mm-hmm.
Romantically, whether he likes her or not, which we found out since. And in the Silver Age, there's Cater Hall, who's an alien police officer from the planet Thanagar. Style-wise, they look almost exactly the same costume. They did not change from the Golden Age to the Silver Age costumes like they did for the Flash or the Green Lantern. So therefore, that causes a lot of confusion among comic fans as they start with the continuity.
Yeah.
After Crisis completely destroyed all his continuity, and they tried to bring him back, Tim Truman brought him back with Hawkworld, and that was supposed to be a brand new Cater Hall, but there's been a Carter Hall forever. So who were those people? So it's almost as confusing as Wonder Girl.
Mm-hmm. But
basically, that's what he looks like. That's what he kind of always looks like. That's by Rags Morales. And he flies with the nth metal, which started out in the Golden Age of the 9th metal.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the thing about Hawkman is somebody's been posting a lot of pages of the Golden Age Hawkman. Well, Sheldon Moldoff is doing some Alex Raymond stuff that's really wonderful. And Joe Kubert did him in the 40s as well, eventually in the 60s. So they brought him back in Brave and Bold for a series with Joe Kubert, and it's almost always Gardner Fox. And then he had his own, and then Murphy Anderson started taking over. And that's kind of the Hawkman. That Cater Hall is the Hawkman in the Justice League, in Super Friends. And so I guess we would go with that. He has some slightly enhanced strength. He's always drawn as a big, brutish built, and the more modern versions that Rags drew and other versions have been really a brutal character who uses maces to beat the crap out of people, and swords, and all sorts of medieval. He's always used medieval weaponry, but it got more brutal as the time has gone on. I think he's a really great-looking character. Hard to draw his mask. Yeah, Hawkman.
That original mask was the worst to draw, I imagine.
They changed that. Yeah, that original mask really was.
I'll find a copy of that original mask.
Well, also the wings aren't attached to him; they're part of like a harness.
Well, he doesn't. Right? He doesn't really even need the wings.
Right.
He just really has to have the wings. Give him the wings. Give him and Hawkgirl, who they created Hawkgirl in the 40s as well. So there wasn't any. They didn't girl boss it. They were invented together. Boss.
Yeah,
I mean, they girl bossed her up in the JLU in the animated show, and at the end of his second run, they replaced him. But that it's really the his belt that has them fly. It's an anti-gravity belt.
Yeah,
and the wings steer him.
Right.
You look at those wings; it's almost like just like shag carpet, you know.
Yeah, that's how those are almost a complete ripoff of the Hawkman in Flash Gordon comic strip by Alex Raymond.
Right.
Which came out first?
Alex Raymond's stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, Flash Gordon.
I think there was like something called Black Hawk before that, maybe.
Black Hawk was an aviator.
Yeah, I think that was before Hawkman.
If you want to show something neat, I posted this on X. I'm gonna send this to your DMs, John.
Okay.
Like drawing of Hawkman, and you can pull it up if you want. Okay. I did this as a commission, a trade with a guy who
knows all these windows, so I could find Twitter. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I really like Hawkman, and like you said, he became one of the most confusing characters to follow. And if you know me, I'm a big fan. Like I didn't realize this until just recently, but I'm like a big fan of continuity, almost more than like a character. So like Hawkman, I fought myself to like because
he's on my shirt here somewhere too.
You know, DC is really challenging to beat for somebody like me because it seems like for the longest time they kept the continuity.
Yeah,
and if they had problems, they just made another and we dealt with it. But then they started rebooting, and you don't know. And then like you said, you had the Tim Truman version. Was that a third version? It was like a sci-fi.
That's the third version. Yeah.
Yeah, then you had this version, then you had that, and then Jeff Johns comes along and says they're all true. You know, and
then that makes it even worse.
But like if you read that JSA series, like
as Jeff Johns does, kind of
sent the soul around. Like the way he described it was like Hawkman's soul is like liquid, and sometimes there's more liquid goes over here and a little bit over here, but it all comes back to the same. I just thought that was.
I think the Egyptian lore is more interesting than the alien Thanagar lore. Yeah. I love the idea that he's reincarnated all the time, and he's got to find Shira.
Well, Hawkman is also a tank. He takes a ton of damage, and he is all warrior, and you know he kind of has he kind of has like a berserker rage that he goes into, but he's more like he's just wants, he's just got like a temper problem essentially.
They developed that. Yeah. They developed that in the Justice League to have him fight with Green Arrow. In his regular series, like the Joe Kubert series or Murphy Anderson, they really didn't exhibit that. But as they were trying to give the DC characters more personality, since they were all like,
so they all work.
All of them.
Chum,
Logic Finest. So I always love his comments.
All of them.
The answer to your question is yes.
Yes. To all
human from Egypt. Yes, he was. Is he a space alien? Yes, he was. You're a classic Marvel guy. Yes, you are. But the original Carter Hall was an Egyptologist.
Yeah,
that's right.
He was working in Egypt, and he found basically the nth metal, and I think he found the wings, or did he make the wings? And he made himself a superhero, and then
I'm pretty sure he found them. Yeah.
And then it was part of like the Hawk god of Egypt, like was his sponsor, kind of like a Moon Knight story. And if you remember in the 40s, there was a lot of mystical origins for Superman.
Yeah, a lot of them. Yeah.
Superman being the exception, but everybody had some sort of mystic tie-in. The original Green Lantern, that was a magic lantern, things like that. And then the Silver Age version, he was more sci-fi. He was from a planet, the Hawk World. So that was the original. This is so confusing about DC, but I understand. The original Earth is Earth 2. So the original Earth 2 Hawkman, from my recollection, was the mystical archaeologist, scientist, guy with the mystical origins. And as far as I know, he had you said it was 9th metal originally, but then they changed it to nth metal for whatever.
No, yeah, I was surprised at that as well. I was always nth metal to me.
Right, I didn't know it was 9th metal.
Right, in typical Julius Schwartz way, he loved He was much more science fiction. He was science fiction editor, so all the characters got rid of the mystical stuff. They became a little more hard comic science, I should say, where he's an alien police officer from another planet, and he's using alien technology combined with, but he was still a museum curator, combined with the weapons he had in the museum, the spears and the maces and all that.
So that nth metal, that is an example, if I remember correctly, is some example of like power creep. Originally just gave him the power to fly, but then it also gave him the ability to resist space, because you can't be a Hawk space cop if you can't survive in space. And then it also like toughened him up and gave him like not a great amount of super strength, but greater than
he had some super strength. But it's coming down. We were talking about that today on Graham's channel. He was debuting a 24-hour cover for Escape from Monster Island, and we were going back and forth about Captain American super strength. So, and Batman, and why they were almost saying something like we were doing on Clobbering Time in a mini fashion, and he just thinks everybody beats Batman. Batman has no super strength, but Captain America to him has super strength. Now I'm like, Captain America has had super strength since 1974. Not they can bend the bars of a jail or something, and they all feel like to do what Captain America does, he has to have some enhanced strength. The movie guy definitely has super strength. The movie Cap has super strength, clearly, without them saying it. But I didn't necessarily agree, but that's how a lot of people feel.
I'm still of the. This is going to go back to an old Clobbering Time, but Captain America beats Batman in a fisticuffs.
Yeah, well, that's what they had decided, right? But what's interesting on super strength is for these superheroes, it used to be okay to say, well, they're an Olympic athlete,
right?
Strength, or they're strong as the strongest guy who can power lift. But the truth, all the stuff they really do, they have to have some sort of hand strength to throw that shield and catch it without getting your fingers cut off,
or to get thrown out the window and not
your forearm cut off. So you have to have some extra strength and some extra resistance to hurt pain.
Yes, Oscar. It's basically kind of the same origin of Moon Knight, except he wasn't a mercenary left to die. He was, But there was a lot like Kent Nelson, the original Dr. Fate.
He was.
Yeah. He was an archaeologist who found a helmet. And I think, and I'm sure Marcus knows better than me, it's because DC Comics was originally a bunch of fiefdoms, so they kind of overlapped, and then they coalesced into DC later on.
That's right. There was a DC Comics side, and there was the All-American side. The All-American side had Hawkman and Wonder Woman, Flash, and the DC had Batman and Superman. And that's why the Justice Society didn't have Batman and Superman in it. It had all the other ones.
And DC stands for Detective Comics.
That's right.
Detective
Comics.
It was
National Comics for the longest time.
Right. I know my Doom Patrol say National Periodicals.
Yeah.
So then Logic is still confused, which is fine because he's a confusing character. How is he human and a space alien? Well, the Earth 2 one is fully human. He was born on Earth, raised on Earth, runs a museum on Earth. The Earth 1 is Thanagarian, but they're also humans. For some strange comic book reason, there's a lot of planets full of humans in Marvel and DC.
Well, he does have Sharia Hall, his wife, and so that's definitely different from Archangel. That long-term relationship there. So,
but I don't know, is there some sort of like ancient astronauts that we went to Thanagar, or you know what I mean? Like how? But
I don't know. I read the Rand Thanagar War not that long ago, and they really didn't go through that too much.
Because Rand is all humans, Thanagar is all humans, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other planets. And then in the future, it's all humans, but that's because of space travel and everything. But yes, he's a space alien who's also a human, who's also a Hawkman.
Yeah,
I think he's pretty lucky. He's had some really terrific artists over the years. I think that's actually kept him alive because he's never been an A-list character. He's a B or a C-list for DC.
And
but he had Joe Kubert and Sheldon Moldoff and Graham Nolan and Aaron Lopresti, and he always had somebody great drawing him. People like to draw him. He's a very dramatic-looking character.
Happy late
Archangel is as well.
Okay, so Zat 10, I guess we're doing some weird DC lore. What about Earth 1, 0, or Earth Prime? Earth 1 was the Silver Age and Bronze Age DC. Once it got to the New 52, I don't know the numbers.
Well, they destroyed that in Crisis, so even before that, yeah.
So Earth 1 was, all the regular Batman, Superman, whatever stuff up until the Crisis, I guess. Earth 2 was the Golden Age, with Superman with the graying temples and the Batman that died, and Robin grew up to have that cool bat-shaped yellow cape, and then Batman had a daughter with Catwoman named the Huntress, who's that got changed in the Crisis.
Yeah.
Earth 0, is that a New 52 thing? Because I don't know much about Earth 0. And Earth Prime is supposed to be our Earth. We are on Earth Prime.
I believe New 52, the Earth Prime is like the universe that everything is like based or like predicated on. So,
but Zach Dan, I hope that Marcus.
Okay,
Marcus is actually doing research.
There is an Earth 0, which it was an Infinite Crisis, 2006, populated by Bizarro versions.
Oh, okay.
And you get Earth 1 called Earth 1985 by Dr. Manhattan. So that's exactly what you were talking. Earth 2 is exactly right. There's alternate Earth 2, which is a variant. That's debatable. Earth 3 was the criminal versions of all the.
Right,
DC
that was the crime syndicate. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
And the
Earth
only
4
was Lex Luthor.
Was the Charlton characters.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Earth 5 is a pre-Crisis Bruce Wayne. Lady Quark, which is Earth 6, which was created for Crisis on Infinite. So then I remember all these are kind of, Earth 12, Oz, Wonderland War. I was looking for where
one of them is Earth.
Where Shazam was Captain Marvel.
That was Earth S, I thought.
Yeah,
Shazam.
Well, they're numbering, so it's making me confused. This is really confusing. So what they did was, DC, Marv Wolfman, particularly Marv Wolfman, had decided that, and even though he read all the comics and understood it, that this is really complicated, and that they never were able to get the continuity tight like Marvel. And of course, Marvel started from the beginning, and on the only superhero world that continuity came naturally, like it naturally grew. It wasn't forced. Here's the Malibu universe. That's a forced universe. Marvel universe was not forced. It grew on its own, partially because Stan Lee was writing all the comics.
Right.
Like I said, he was drawing all the
Legos. You started out with one Lego, and then you just clipped another Lego on.
Right. So that's why it works so well. And that's one of the reasons why it's never been changed. But so Marv decided it was really confusing. Now, I think most kids had no problem with Earth S and Earth 1 and Earth 2. But he decided that there was this huge multiverse, and they were going to get rid. They didn't call it the multiverse.
Right? How funny is that? This was the multiverse back then, and now multiverse is all the rage.
Well, they had the Crisis, the 12 issue terrific comic where they merged everything into one Earth. They destroyed all the Earths, and the Flash died and Supergirl died. So there's no, So then they started with the legacy heroes. However, they already ruined it by not really having Superman and Wonder Woman start with number ones right after Crisis. They waited for Byrne and Perez to do it like a year later, which kind of like separated it a little bit. And then Byrne and Perez are making their own versions of the multiverse, like Byrne. What's with Superboy? There was no Superboy. So because there's no Superboy, then how is there a legion of superheroes who are inspired by Superboy? And you just could go on and on and on, and it did clean it up. And I bought a lot more DC comics after Crisis than they did before Crisis.
It worked as far as selling comics.
Yes, it did. That it did.
And it flopped as far as making it easier to understand.
Well, they only waited 10 years before they did another version of this with Dan Jurgens or something. So it was kind of ridiculous.
I just realized that I skipped this super chat. I just want to say this before I forget. RRTNZ, I haven't seen you in a while. How you doing, RR? Good matchup, boys, but I give the speed and ferocity edge to Archangel. He has more wins by decapitation. Poor Carter. You're going to get your head cut off tonight, Carter. So out of 10 fights, Archangel wins 7, Hawkman 3.
Yeah.
I get, as always, I'm going to keep my opinions to the end, but yeah. So let's see. Did I skip any chats? I'm not trying to be controversial, but why was Hawkman a black guy in that horrible Black Adam film?
Because they made him black.
Because they made him black.
Yeah.
why not? Because I think they also made him black in a TV show too, if I remember correctly.
Well,
and they had the best Dr. Fate ever on screen.
In the CW, he wasn't black. She was black. Hawkgirl was black, but Hawkman wasn't black.
No.
DC characters confuse me. Having a character with two different continuities simultaneously rubs me the wrong way. Yes, but like Marcus was saying, it wasn't confusing for fans. Like I understood Earth 2.
I understood it. I didn't buy
Earth 2 was the original DC universe. Earth 1 was the rebooted one. But that, what DC really they should have done two things, in my opinion. Either left it alone and just here's who comes from which planet. This is the way it is. Everybody stick to this, or reboot it all from one. Every issue starts with one. And my problem with DC was every time they reboot it, they tell the Great Doctor Saga again. They tell like the great stories again. No, the Great Doctor Saga happened pre-crisis. It's over. Now your mission is to top it. You know what I mean? Don't copy.
They did it with the New 52. They okay, here's the New 52, but we're leaving Batman alone.
Right.
Batman's the only one that really sells.
Oh, Green Lantern. Jeff Johns didn't want to do that whole light story again. You know what I mean? And I don't blame him.
I don't blame him either.
So the thing about Hawkman, not to get bogged down in all this, is
have you been on its clobbering time before, Cooper?
Well, I'm just trying to stay focused here. But if you were talking about in certain continuities, he has like the powers of a hawk, and he can actually commune with bird kind.
He did do that.
And so that's definitely something Archangel doesn't have. And he also, he also has the with the maces and everything like that. The metal.
There's something about the medieval weapons and the wings that just
I think that's cool.
It just makes him cool. He's got a good cool factor.
He's a barbarian. I mean, he's a thug. He's the tank.
He's a brute.
Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, he can fly pretty fast, but he's not a thing of he's not lithe, and he's not like a thing of like delicacy. He's a blunt instrument.
I agree with RRTNZ over here, where Hawkman is a great concept character, but often he's best. I totally agree. To me, he's best in a team comic. You know, when you like if I get the Fantastic Four, I don't need a Human Torch comic. The Human Torch, I think, works best in the Fantastic Four. You know what I mean? Like a Human Torch solo series. Do we need that? I feel the same with Hawkman. But at the same time, I like what Jeff Jones did in that he used that nth metal as it was almost like a quantum bridge. Like every time Carter Hall died, he got reincarnated on the opposite planet. So the Earth incarnation of the Hawk avatar died, and then it went to Thanagar. Then that guy had a life, and then when that guy died, it went back and forth.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I like the idea, and he's never had a comic this long. Is that when he gets reincarnated, he has to find Sharia again. So there's a romantic type of Beauty and the Beast. Like I have to go find her, and then sometimes she doesn't want to be found.
Right.
And in the last series that I read, that Jeff Johns did with Rags Morales, and then eventually,
that series became a little creepy, if you ask me, because it was like 40-year-old Carter Hall and 19-year-old.
It was a little creepy.
I was like,
it's Jeff Johns.
You can't do. You used to be able to do that stuff. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah, this isn't 1962 anymore, where Professor.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah, but it's Jeff Johns. Everything he does is creepy. He aged up a 13-year-old and gave him a gay lover.
What about what Steve Englehart did with Green Lantern and Arisha?
Yeah, she was 14, right? But then they decided it was Arishan years, so each year is 3 years. So she was really
13. Sure. That was pretty
Nice save.
They mature at different rates. They mature at different rates. So.
Logic. It's okay. I always like Birdman from the 60s. Birdman.
I think anybody with wings like that, and the wings are kind of a lame power now because just flying is a lame power, but anybody with wings is a pretty dramatic power, like the Archangel. Well, even the Archangel in the Bible, it's dramatic. You see in your church and in the Bible the paintings, and it's just called Archangel, Birdman, Hawkman. It all calls back to that, and we all have like it's cool, and you can only make it more cool. Of course, you can't really. Unfortunately, it's hard to give a character wings anymore because then it just looks like a rip off.
Right.
Oscar says, I don't like multiverses. I do and I don't. I like multiverses when they did it the way DC did, when each each version had its own flavor and its own heroes. Like, yeah, they had 2 Supermans, but like that kind of arose rather organically or whatever.
Well, if it did arouse you, that's an issue.
Yeah, Superman was very arousing. It was one of his lesser known powers. But
I did like that Wally Wood version,
But he like they had
Wood.
like Batman died and he had a daughter on Earth 2. Like, so Earth 2 had its own flavor, and then Earth Shazam, and then the Crime Syndicate. What I don't like about multiverses is it's just like, oh, here's Spider-Man again, and here's Spider-Man again, and here's Spider-Man again. Oh, this is the Black Spider-Man. This is the Indian Spider-Man. It, and then they just excuses to us to
it takes away the uniqueness of all the characters.
Like
when I was a kid, I liked the idea of Earth 2 is I didn't see them that much except with the crossovers, and they could have stories that could finish. Like Batman could get married to Catwoman. They could have a daughter. You knew that couldn't happen on Earth 1. Superman could marry Lois Lane, and he still jumped instead of flew. And they could have different, Jay Garrick. They have families.
I still love that original Jay Garrick costume. That is
I do like that. That's a pain in the neck. That's hard to draw to make it look good, though. That helmet.
Did I forget? Did he have a mystic origin, Jay Garrick?
I don't know. I look it up. I think he did.
It's like what if I did mind what ifs because I like that concept of the Watcher seeing beyond reality, and like I also like, as much as I don't like breaking the fourth wall, the Watcher talking directly to the reader. He's like the one character that can do it. What if? Yeah, so I didn't mind, but and man, those what if stories were always so sad at the ending.
They were so sad.
Everybody died. Hawkman is a very convoluted backstory. Mainly, yes. I think Hawkman and Hector Hall, his son. Oh my God, that guy got screwed. And the most screwed character in all of DC was Golden Age Wonder Woman, and Steve Trevor had a daughter named Helena. That was the Fury, who debuted in she debuted in All-Star Squadron, but became a regular in Infinity Incorporated. She got so messed up. They just didn't know what to do with her.
The Flash, Jay Garrick inhaled, it says hard water vapors.
Yeah.
That is the worst.
That's a really
bad origin.
It's a really bad origin, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, who was
You're thinking Max Mercury. Max Mercury had like a supernatural origin.
The Wizard was built by a mongoose.
Right.
Yeah.
That was
the Wizard's not much better now.
I remember I forget if Jeff Johns created this Claw of Horus. It was this nth metal glove that like
I think he did. I don't remember it in the
they wanted to power up. It was the same problem with Angel. Hawkman was as powerful as Angel, but with a mace. So they wanted this weapon that was capable of fighting and holding his own against people like Black Adam. Because of the whole Egypt connection, they had a tie with Black Adam. Because The Rock wanted a Black Hawkman. There you go. There's your answer. Agreed. Best parts of a crappy Black Adam film with Dr. Fate, who was awesome in the last 30 seconds. Yeah, I didn't see it. I noped out on DC movies after Man of Steel. Yeah. That is part of it too, is they didn't want to have an Egyptian themed.
Well, they think that Egyptians were black because they see Africa, and it's the same reason they did a black Cleopatra. They think everybody on the continent of Africa was black.
She wasn't even
Stippling.
Cleopatra wasn't even Egyptian, for God's sake.
Here's the link if anybody wants to come in.
No, she was Ptolemaic, which was Caucasian.
I like this comment. Hawkman is the Sean Bean of comics. He's the first to die.
Yeah.
They should put him in a red shirt, right?
That's right. Hawkman is an archaeologist. That's why he uses medieval.
That's right.
But it's funny because he's an Egyptologist, so he should use Egyptian weapons, but he uses European.
Yeah.
But
that's in the museum. That's handy.
Right. Now let's just let's describe
the mace is like made of the nth metal is like everything with Hawkman. It depends on the different powers of nth metal. You know, it gives him the ability to fly. It also heals his wounds. It also, it also is one of the only substances that cancels magic.
Right.
So
was MacGuffin. It was a Guffin metal. It beefed him
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it was a catch-all, kind of like kryptonite for Superman.
Right.
It's like
his villains were no good either, so there's that. He never really had a good villain.
Thanagar Row or something like that. The insect-looking guy.
Yeah, that he had Bith. He had Shadowman, the Gentleman Ghost.
I like the Gentleman Ghost.
Yeah,
I like that concept. But I want to.
They were cool, but they weren't legendary.
They were products of their time.
Yeah.
To add to my statement about Hawkman, he's also perfect for a 4-issue limited series. Remember those from the 80s with his own?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I always thought like those Aquaman miniseries I really liked, but the Aquaman long-term series,
none of those DC characters other than Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman could carry a series up to 100 issues. Not Green Lantern couldn't do it. Not
well,
Adam
if Kelly
Hawkman,
Sue DeConnick can't carry your series, then you're not a good character. So
Flash could carry a series. He's carried to 350 starting with 105, so that kind of counts.
I'm being sarcastic, okay?
I didn't say they're bad characters. He's kind of ironic that they're well-known characters as the Justice League characters.
Kelly Sue DeConnick can't write shit. Series. Okay, I was joking.
Alicia was in her mid-20s, but they also said she was. They said that she was 14, but then they realized it was creepy. They changed it to Arisian years, which was I forget if like each year was a year and a half, but it made her like 28 to 30. Biologically. That's why few characters could carry a comic. That's why
the same thing they did with Cass and Star Trek Voyager. So.
Right.
Oh yeah, I remember her. Yeah, I watched Voyager.
I will say that characters like Namor, as cool as Namor is, and Aquaman, writing, that's why so many like the John Byrne. When John Byrne did Namor, it was mostly above the water because below the sea is more alien than comic book alien race. Like when you go to Thanagar, it's less alien than being underwater.
But I find that Namor is another one of those real brutish hammer. I'm the hammer, you're the nail characters, like Hawkman, and so he people like him. But again, you're right. His original series lasted like 75 issues.
Come on in, stippling the water's fine.
There's certain characters that don't lay down. The Marvel B characters, they just kept them in their comics and never canceled them. Like they never canceled Iron Man. They never canceled. Well, Thor was a little higher than Iron Man. Yeah, but that type of thing, they just kept him going.
Black Adam, he's Samoan, tough to get. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not one of these people that like the actor has to be the same race as or genetic makeup of the character. You're an actor, as long as you could pull it off. I don't really care. But to me, The Rock, yes, I know he's Samoan, but The Rock has this like. He could pull off a lot of ethnicities. You know what I mean? He could pull it off. I thought he was a perfect choice to play Black Adam.
Yeah, I like that. I agree.
He was big, intimidating. Now the thing is, if they did do this Zachary Levi Shazam movie and Black Adam, there's no way I could believe that Zachary Levi could go toe to toe with.
Well, they're not going to do that after he's a little based.
Well, that second movie went totally woke and just like ruined the whole thing anyway.
I just got a big cramp in my foot. Here's my theory about Black Adam. Like Black Adam, his origin was he was the predecessor to Captain Marvel. Shazam found him in Egypt. But like biblically, Egypt was called Kemet. And Kemet translates to the land of the black soil. And Adam means first. So I always thought of it as like he was the first of Egypt. So basically, Black Adam to me literally translates to like Captain Egypt. You know what I mean? Like that's medieval or ancient prehistorical. They couldn't call him Captain Egypt, but he's Black Adam. He's the first of Kemet, first of the black soil. So I do like that they tie him to Egypt and make him an Egyptian superhero, like original Egyptian. We're talking like pre-dynastic, maybe they were. because the pharaohs had a European genetics.
I will be right back.
But I don't know about the pre-dynastic, pre-pharaohic Egyptians. Like that's how far back Black Adam would have to be, like prehistorical. Heroinberg, how you doing? Hail, John Marcus. Chat can't stream because I work in security, but I'll be at Akron Comic Con tomorrow with Devana. I'll go with Warren Worthington because he's super rich. Money is a superpower, and I wish I had that superpower. I think Hawkman would be a better character if there was no Hawkwoman. I don't know. I'm Coop, talk for a second. I want to find an image of the original Golden Age Hawk Girl that I don't know. I find her to be one of the sexiest comic book characters. Golden Aged Hawk Girl.
Well,
story or no story.
Well, Warren Worthington, depending on where he is in the timeline, he has lost his fortune a couple times. Like Cameron embezzled his money and basically put him back in the poorhouse at one point. So, but then he's bounced back and he's got his fortune back. So he's not, just depending on where he is in the timeline as to how rich he is. So.
Right. That's always a trope. If you're rich, you got to lose your money. Like, when
Green
Peter
Arrow lost
became super rich.
Yeah, I mean, Iron Man. How many times has he had to reboot? Lost his company, had to do a new one. So
I've been going. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say I don't know. I find Shara Hall, like I just love that like modest but sexy costume, and then that 40s glamorous hairstyle that you don't see anymore, like that Rita Hayworth.
I mean, she was really sexy in the animated series and the animated series comic. Yeah, it's, they draw kind of like Steve Rude drew this, very tough without being butchy. She's really good that way. And
I also like that they were a married couple.
Well, when they did the Hawk Girl in that god awful CW show, something of the tomorrow, whatever.
Oh yeah.
That was the ugliest actress I think I've ever seen.
I don't know.
Well, the first two seasons of that show were pretty bad, and then they said, this whole thing is really ridiculous, and they bought into how ridiculous it was.
It got better. Yeah,
it got a lot of fun. And they stopped using their powers, and they're like, how come we're not using our powers? They'd like be really self-aware about stuff.
They added Constantine. That was the best.
That was fun. It was a little woke, but it almost made fun of the woke. It was so over the top.
Yeah,
so it was. Yeah. I enjoyed that show, to be honest with you.
But that Hawk Girl, that girl was butt ugly. I don't know.
She had that big gap in her teeth.
She had
a big wide mouth,
overbite.
She had a nice body,
overbite. Oh yeah, I was like,
so Zach Tan and R both say that Green Lantern has endless story. I agree. I don't particularly like the Green Lantern costume, but I love. I don't particularly like the Green Lantern character because it's got too many. But the costume is one of the best costumes ever.
I was going to argue with you about the costume.
Yeah, that is one of the greatest superhero costumes.
Gil Kane may be one of the greatest superhero costume designers ever.
But I am of the opinion that they should define and limit Green Lantern's powers. I think it would make him a better character, because if you could potentially do anything,
what they usually do is I've been going through a lot of some of these older comics. What they usually do, Green Lantern is like really beat on Hal Jordan. He becomes a truck driver. He becomes a salesman. He's not Chuck Yeager anymore. Like the idea was he was Chuck Yeager. That's the idea when they created him. And that, and then Green Lantern could do anything, but he always has to lose his ring, and he always, and it's got to run out of power, and somebody's got to have yellow.
That's got to have doubt. He's got to doubt himself and lose his ability because he doesn't have the will.
I do like that the ring runs out of charge. It kind of makes sense, and I do like the color yellow always bothered me, but I do like that.
Well, they got rid of Jeff Johns got rid of that and made it.
They changed it. If he's afraid. That makes
what I like about him when I was a kid is that unlike other heroes, there was a sector. There was space policemen. There was so many Green Lanterns everywhere, and you could create all sorts of. The guy was a planet. A guy was a squirrel. A guy was a dog.
One of them looked like a Band-Aid, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, you could do anything, and they could be Green Lanterns of this sector. I love that idea.
Yeah, I like
that idea.
By the way, let me make a correction. I was thinking Brian Michael Bendis, not Jeff Johns. I don't know why I got this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, then
I apologize to Jeff Johns
That's why I was
for ever insinuating that you're Brian Michael Bendis.
I like Jeff Johns, but
other than Jeff Johns always cutting somebody's arm off, I like him. Yeah.
Well, Peter David did that a lot too. So
Green Lantern, I like this police force thing, and I like the for those of you who don't, we're talking about Green Lantern in this thing, but is supposed to be the center, the dot in the middle of a circle of the universe, and they split it up into 3,600 wedges, and each one of those wedges gets one Green Lantern. So, and it's the universe, so they're basically slices of infinity are also infinity. So they're supposed to be, the fact that Green Lanterns team up is supposed to be rare, and like, oh my God, 2 Green Lanterns got to get together. What's going on? So I kind of like that. What I hate is now that there's 80 million human Green Lanterns.
Oh, no, there's too many human Green Lanterns.
Oh, it just drives me nuts. But I like that Band-Aid one, the crystal one, the one that looks like a parrot. You know what I mean?
Now, yeah, but they don't want to kill all those Green Lanterns, And I remember reading that story when John Stewart became a Green Lantern. That wasn't a big DC kid, but when I was a little kid, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I bought all the comics. Didn't matter what they were.
Guy Gardner will always be my Green Lantern.
But, I don't remember Guy Gardner from the 60s. He was supposed to be the first Green Lantern. The one thing about what happens with these DC characters is because they're so linked, Hawkman's linked to Green Arrow. It's linked to Green Lantern's linked to Flash because they've all had team-ups together, all in the Justice League. We end up talking about all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
What RR says exactly. Cyclops is a great character, but he can't carry.
Yeah, he doesn't have enough personality.
He can't carry a soul. I hate to say it, but it's like Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is a good team character. Like most of the X-Men, Wolverine obviously is the exception, but I don't know. Storm is good for a solo series.
They could all have miniseries. I don't think they could be ongoing series, and then they're really stretching it thin.
Hawkman was a tough character when Batman and Wally West giving me a hard time about Doc Light says, if I knew it was going to be this much trouble, I just would have killed him.
Yeah.
The Rock.
He's not above murking people.
It was his idea. It was his idea to have Zatanna change everybody's mind at that Infinite Crisis. Yeah. He didn't care about it. He had no moral compunction about anything.
Looking like the character, being a good actor, made things. Everything else, yes, I agree. Can you act, number one, and do you look like the character? Because if you could act really well, we could put some prosthetics on you. But I don't. Hell, I'm not above blackface for actors. You're actors, you know what I mean? If you could get a black actor to be a white guy, put makeup on him. That's what makeup does. I don't care about that. Hawk Girl in the JLA animated series has some good moments. I think everybody loved her in the JLA. Everybody loved her in that animated series.
Yeah, she did tend to be girl boss towards the end of the first series, though.
Oh, the comments are going up pretty good.
But when they made the series, and now we call her girl boss. Back then, it wasn't such a big deal. But if it's written well, it doesn't matter if it's a girl boss.
And it was also
that character, as long as not all of them are girl bosses.
Well, I mean, JLA International was the second series that expanded it. There was the first one was
International.
International, right? The second series that it had people like the Question and the Huntress and people like
JLU,
that. JLU, yep. That was such a great series because
I really like that romance between the Question and Huntress.
That
was such.
And it was legitimately the Question.
That was when I had the slight romance between Batman and Wonder Woman.
Yeah, right.
Cyclops is the second greatest leader in classic Marvel after Captain America. Both characters were horribly cast in live action. Yes, neither one of them had any command. People kind of get shocked when I say this, but I didn't like Chris Evans as Captain America. I just didn't like him. I didn't like.
He's definitely a better Human Torch.
Yes, he's perfect for the Human Torch.
Perfect Human Torch, but yeah.
Guy Gardner's. I know. My DC knowledge is a lot limited compared to
It was in 1968.
That Guy Gardner had such a history.
He was started in 68.
Oh wow! So he's as old as me. They're not bad characters, just bad writers. Yes.
Green Lantern 59. Well, that's what Jack Kirby used to say. There are no bad characters.
Like, as much as nobody likes Mark Waid, but he did a really good job with the Flash's Rogues Gallery. You know,
back then he was very good. I liked him.
Gotta give credit where credit is due.
Mark Waid, you know, he had a run there. I mean, on Flash,
he was good.
That I think it's the you know, just quintessential Flash.
He was one of the guys that I look forward to.
Wally West was his muse. I mean,
he was a Speed Force guy, right?
The internet really
was it Greg LaRocque did the work.
You know?
Yeah, well, before we find out what a weasel he is, yeah, I mean,
well, and we find out behind the scenes that he treated other creators really badly and threw tantrums like he does, in real life, not just on the internet. Yeah, that like,
I mean, Kingdom Come. Let's face it, it's a brilliant story.
I think that has a little more to do with Alex Ross bringing it to Mark
Probably
dialogue, though.
Probably, yeah.
To be fair.
I expect a comment like this from Heroinberg, and that's all I'll address about that comment. Identity Crisis was DC's lowest point. Should never have gone. The one thing I did like about Identity Crisis, I agree with you, RR. Let me say that. But one thing I did like was when like Batman's like a murder afoot, and then Batman went to solve the crime, and everybody else was like, you know, we did something. Like they all knew that they messed up by messing with Batman's mind, and it was kind of like, you know, when you were a little kid and your mother says, when Dad comes home, you're getting beaten, and you just had to like they all knew Batman was going to find out and they were going to mess with him. But I agree, it was one of those kind of concepts like, okay, but let's not do this with the Justice League. You know, it tarnishes the Justice League, and that's the problem with Identity Crisis to me.
Yeah.
Sarah and Ava did make out, though.
Oh, they did?
They literally were like got married on the show.
Mm.
That should make Heronberg happy.
Good actor, looking like the character, good writing. Just good without good writing as opposed. Yeah. I mean, I remember I got to an argument, like a friendly argument, before the first X-Men when they announced the first X-Men movie, and one of my friends said, if it's good, it'll be really good. And I was like, everything, if it's good, it'll be really good. You know, I'm like, we need more. I was like, you got to expand on that. And he was like, you know what I mean? Like,
I remember all these people were like, Hugh Jackman. Who the heck is Hugh Jackman?
It's funny. I was one of those people like, he's too tall. He's too tall to be.
He is too tall.
And now
but then you come, you see him in the cage and his back's to you, and you're like, that's him. That's him. He didn't even have to turn around yet. Just the way he was standing, you knew it was him.
Mark Waid wrote the Return of Barry Allen.
I still like.
I don't know.
I still have such a soft spot for that first Captain America movie, though.
That is a good movie.
Like Chris Evans. I mean, that's what I always go back to. Winter Soldier was really good. They didn't really put him in a position to be leading the Avengers all that much anyway.
Right. The first Captain America movie was one of the best. MCU
yeah, I really enjoyed. They got criticized for the back half not being great. No, Red Skull not being great.
Well, getting the guy that did Rocketeer to do it was brilliant. Brilliant idea.
Yeah, I think so. When he's not Cap yet, and he jumps on that grenade. I mean, I was like, that's it. They got
that. That was him. That's Steve Rogers right there in a nutshell. Yeah.
And when he gets the flag down without climbing, nobody can figure it out, and he just goes. Then like, and then little teeny things when he becomes Captain America, and Peggy Carter goes up to him and just and she said that wasn't in the script.
No,
he just looked that good to her at that
time.
To
be honest, if the roles were reversed, I think I would have touched her too.
Oh my God! Yeah, no kidding. I like that TV show she was into.
I don't know. Everybody talks about Peggy Carter, but I think my favorite Marvel woman was Jamie Alexander as Sif.
Oh yeah, that's good.
She was gorgeous. Okay.
Yeah.
Black Widow. I know it's.
I don't know. I like
Black Widow that much.
Black Widow, baby.
She's pretty, but she wasn't Black Widow to me. You know, like.
What else could she have done to be Black Widow? She had the athleticism. She had the look. She had the red hair.
She's too like girl next door pretty. Black Widow is supposed to be exotic. Like Famke Johnson from the James Bond world would have been the.
I can see your point when you say it like that. Yeah, definitely see your point.
She's too.
I still like her.
Yeah, I don't dislike her.
I liked them until they started telling us how to vote. Now I'm like, forget all of them.
I'm so glad.
I don't like any of them at the moment, but you know, Screw all of them at the moment. So,
they're all paid for. Nobody came out. The celebrities didn't come out to the end because they either got blackmailed or paid.
Yeah.
Nobody really wanted
to get into that. But yeah. Alex Johnson says, "Didn't Identity Crisis make Wally West a killer? Did he? I forget.
I didn't read Identity Crisis. I read
it. They ruined Raleigh West. I mean,
I think I blocked that.
That was a Tom King thing, right?
Yeah, it was a Tom King thing. Yeah.
Presentism is the same thing as setting a sci-fi story on her. That's one of my things that I like. I
Tom King is you just go.
I love the original Star Trek, but I hated when they went to this is the Nazi planet, this is the Roman planet, this is this is the gangster planet. I hated those episodes. I know everybody loves a taste of the action, but I don't know. Disagree with John and Chris Evans. It was not a Captain America fan at all, but Evans sold me on the character.
Hey, that's good.
That's fine. If you liked it, that works. I'm not gonna get upset about that. The Winter Soldier is the best MCU because everything else. I think it was like the most solid story. It was like a good action movie with superheroes in it.
When they
right, that's what it was. It was like a Cloak and Dagger story.
Right, they took it seriously, and that's to me. Like after Guardians of the Galaxy, they went more jokey.
Well, the writing was so tight in Winter Soldier when they had that one running discussion where she was trying to match him up with somebody, and every time it's like there was a lull. They would like talk about it, like when they kicked the weasel off the roof, and she's like, "How about such and such?" And he's like, "No, I'm not ready for that."
I like Guardians of the Galaxy. Both.
Me too. It worked for Guardians of the Galaxy.
Both of them, but not every Marvel movie had to be Guardians of the Galaxy.
No.
But I'm one of the few people who really like the first two Thor movies too.
Just like with DC, what's his name? Why can't I think of his name? Did the Batman trilogy? It was nice and dark, but that worked for Batman. That doesn't work for Superman.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. I like Chris Evans more as the Human Torch and Captain 100% for me. Alex Jones, no, it made Dr. Light. Yeah. Like I said, Identity Crisis tarnished DC characters too much.
It really did. That was not a good idea.
Denny O'Neil said, "You bend them, but you don't break them," and and you have to be custodians of the characters. Like, I know I saw this out of context, so but like that, they showed a frame of Storm from the X-Men saying, "I dated a weatherman once, and he cheated on me, so I ruined his career." Like, it's not even that funny of a joke. Second off, it makes Aurora Monroe one of the most regal characters in all comics.
She hasn't been regal.
And that to me is
I thought that, and I didn't mind. I don't mind it at the time, but I thought they ruined when Paul Smith shaved, gave her the mohawk and the punk look, and it came out of nowhere. It came from Paul, not from Chris Claremont. And God bless him, it looked great, but it kind of ruined that regal.
I kind of liked it because it if you remember, that was because she went off into space for so long.
That's true.
And when she came back, she was so tuned to the Earth that her brain was messed. I thought that was a really good explanation.
Well, and then she became a Morlock leader, and that kind of fit the Morlock.
Well, when she got reconnected to the Earth, she
because Chris Claremont could pull anything off because he can write.
It's Chris flicking Claremont. And by the way, he had Miss Samuelson over there. Speaking of Miss Samuelson, can we talk about?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm just trying to adjust all the chat. Catherine Zeta-Jones would have been a good widow.
Yeah.
I mean, she's
in the days she would have been. Yeah. Probably.
Strongly disagree with Chris Evans. That's not Captain America. In the writing, yes, but Evans is not a good actor. He doesn't convey. He doesn't have the command presence. What about the Kingdom Come Hawkman? I thought I loved everything.
Kingdom Come was cool. Now I have to go read it again.
Yeah, I want to read that, and I want to read Earth X again, the Marvel version.
Yeah, that was cool too.
Cloak and Dagger, the phrase or the characters?
The phrase.
Yeah, the phrase. There was no. But we all like what we like. Who could share point? Yeah. That's what the whole point of this show is. Don't fight it, but don't take it seriously. We're not going to.
Yeah.
No, that's not what Presentism. It's viewing the past. Yes, it.
But if we don't land on Archangel, I hate you all.
Right. It's like judging medieval Europe for its treatment of women. Meanwhile, because we're looking at it from 2025. It's like, dude,
that's what everybody does. That's
I agree with you, Heronberg. Absolutely 100%. 2014 with MCU peak year, Captain America, Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy. I was really surprised. I really like Guardians of the Galaxy, but that it shouldn't have became Thor, and it shouldn't became like, I loathed Identity. The more we're talking about an identity crisis, it's like diminishing right before right now. Yeah, Aurora Monroe was a street thief as a child. Yep. Yeah.
No, it's mistaken for a goddess.
Mistaken for a goddess.
That's right.
Yeah. I know that it dumbs down the material by doing that. I argue. Yeah. I always like on Doctor Who, like the girl always walked out in Victorian England and like nobody batted an eye that she was dressed like that. I understand they retroactively said the TARDIS telepathically changed their language and stuff. But like, did it create illusions of how they dressed? Punk Storm was very 80s in the time period. Yeah. I don't know. It worked, but I also knew it wasn't going to be the status quo, just like Superior Spider-Man. I enjoyed it because I knew, okay, we got a year of this, and then we're going to go back.
I didn't sit there at the time and say, I hate this. I did want to find out what happens next with her. I'm just saying in retrospect. Superior Spider-Man is they tried too hard to like they had Doctor Strange check him out. They had the scientists check him out. Like Dr. Octopus invented a process that was better than Doctor Strange. That cheapened Doctor Strange to me. Hated Punk Storm and the direction the character took. I've been known mine. Hated Life, Death, and Claremont. The 80s dragged the X-Men down for Marvel's best. Well, I also quit. Like that.
I also quit the X-Men around issue 200 because
you missed some of that stuff.
Yeah, I've since bought up to like 400, but and then I read it so fast I don't remember most of it. All right, like Cooper said, let's get back. We always stray, but now we
stray a lot.
So so now we have to clarify. There's really only one version of Archangel, right? You're right.
Right.
So, but which version of Hawkman are we taking?
I think we have to take the Silver Age version.
You think so?
I think that's the one everybody knows more about, the one that's in the comics.
The Egyptologist Carter Hall.
I was going to say the Jeff Johns JSA version with the Claw of Horus.
You could take that one. That's the one I drew, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I would pick. So, is there? Do we even need to make a scenario? Do we just have like
Archangel? All you need is Hawkman to get really pissed at something and want to beat something up, and he's trying.
Or is he one of the horsemen of the apocalypse?
Yeah,
right.
And he's sent in to do some hijinks, and Carter Hall intercepts them because they're both flying.
Yeah.
So what do you guys? Again, these two characters, I like Hawkman better, but I don't know either one of them well enough to speak with any authority. So what do you think, Cooper?
I'll go with Archangel simply because of the one of the things that Carter Hall has not shown to be able to do is to stave up. I mean, you can cut off limbs and he can reattach them. He does have that, but he's never been able to reattach his head after a decapitation. And that's one thing that Archangel can do better than pretty much anybody in the Marvel universe. See Kamikaze. When Kamikaze flew up behind him, he didn't even know he was there, and he decapitated him. So we're talking about somebody that's basically human Cuisinart going up against somebody who has no armor, and all he has is like the mace, and there's a lot of flesh there for Archangel to like cut into, and then he can even hit him from a distance, which Hawkeye doesn't have. So he has the feathers that can fly from a distance, and they have the neurotoxin on them. So I just don't see any scenario. I mean, Hawkeye would take a lot of cuts to go down, but he doesn't even have to get close to him. So I'm just gonna have to go with Archangel.
Sneeze.
So we got one vote for Archangel, but I don't think that's a surprise considering it says T Bunny. Archangel is a badass, and we got steampunk Stippling Vaughn over here.
Before we get into who do you like who's better and whatnot, two things I wanted to hit on that I didn't hit on in the chat. I think it was 3 years ago. I went to a panel at a Comic-Con that had 3 writers and artists from Hawkman over various incarnations. The one thing about Hawkman that hurts him, he's never had a strong rogues gallery.
Yeah,
we talked about that. Yeah.
Oh, you did talk about that? I didn't know that.
The Shadow Thief and what?
The Shadow Thief is cool.
And Gentleman's Ghost.
I understand if you don't like them. But Blythe and Rojar Khan or whatever,
Kanjo Row, yeah.
Yeah, they
Ripley's more of a DC guy than all of us, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, take a look at it. Who was one of his early villains, but Kite Man? Kite Man?
Yeah.
I mean, his most formidable, I'd say, would be the Gentleman Ghost.
I've been saying mostly Hawkman's strength to me is that he always had terrific artists drawing him.
Well, that plus also you gotta keep in mind he was one of those characters you guys were talking about, like Cyclops and Nightcrawler, how they can't hold a book on their own. That's honestly the same with Hawkman. Hawkman makes a great ensemble character for a team, but it's hard to and what's always made him look so damn good is the artwork. So, but my other thing would be, you guys were saying, I know, like Heroes in Crisis, that was absolute shit.
Yeah, I read that.
Identity Crisis, though, I did like, because they took a chance. They killed off Elongated Man's wife. And here in the end, it wasn't a super villain. It was Ray Palmer's ex-wife trying to win him back.
But that would be interesting if they didn't have her raped by what's his face, by Dr. Light.
That
maybe the most awful way.
I'm
not saying it on stream.
No, for me, it was one of those, the thing is, it made sense why he was. It explained more of why he was so incompetent.
True,
he was a man.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So,
I don't know.
Because we gotta keep in mind, overall, what's always hindered every single DC character is because they all come from that era of safe storytelling. And how do you grow these characters up? How do you make Dr. Light a really vindictive, dangerous character when he's been a fucking joke? Pardon my language. He's been a joke that the Teen Titans easily take care of. You get what I'm saying? That's always hindered every single DC character, is that they're always held back by pre-crisis when they had to do safe stories.
I don't even remember. What was the one where they were all in therapy?
That was Heroes in Crisis.
What year did that come out?
That Heroes in Crisis. That was.
Because I think I'm getting it.
That was a year before the pandemic.
That was Tom King, right?
So I don't think Clayman. The only bright side of that is one issue was done by Lee Weeks.
Everything's better than what's done by Lee Weeks.
Yeah, but the thing is, even that was. Let's put it this way: the issue that Lee Weeks did was pretty good because basically history's been rewritten, but without his kids. So he's lost and he's depressed. And then in the end, you find out he was the bad guy and he was framing himself. That was one of those where it's like, this is bullshit. And that's where really it started, where the cracks really started to become apparent of these guys don't care about these characters anymore.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't care anymore. I think it's they hired people that didn't care to begin with.
That true.
Like Chuck Dixon always says, they had lifers for the longest time, and then, who are since 2015, who are the long-term writers? All I could think of is like Scott Snyder and the guy you just mentioned, But I keep like Ta-Nehisi Coates came in like a comet and then left. You know, none of these people want. It wasn't their childhood dream to write comic books. You know, they don't care. They just want to. Hey, this is a
It
fun.
was his childhood dream to desecrate Captain America, though.
That's true.
Might be
Well-
but let's get back to the fight. So Stippling, you want to? I guess I could call you Vaughn instead of Stippling.
Nah, go with Stippling. That way,
Okay.
I'd
Stippling.
rather Stippling because I'd rather you guys. Well, if you guys are saying Vaughn, my brain goes to Vaughn Coleman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So-
you don't want to be. Yeah, Stippling it is.
Nobody
That's
wants
not a
that.
good idea.
Yeah, nobody wants that. So what do you? Who do you think wins in a fight?
Well, first and foremost, I love Hawkman. Always have, even
Me too.
from the golden age, from the golden era of the Justice League of America, which again, that's what made Identity Crisis so good, was because your core characters weren't Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. They were in it, but the core characters were the core characters of when the Justice League of America was so great, which is Green Arrow, Black Canary, Elongated Man, and Zatanna and Hawkman. And so for me, Hawkman was one of my favorite characters, and the reason why I picked up the Justice League of America every single month. But when you look at it realistically, between these two guys, I have to give it to Archangel because of the upgrade he got from Armageddon with having those paralyzing steel blades.
Yep.
For feathers. That puts him over the top. If it was just Angel versus Hawkman, Hawkman wouldn't be like, what is this on the bottom of my shoe?
Yeah. Basically, Archangel.
Finally, thank you.
Well, we don't argue. I had not argued.
There's a machine gun that fires knives. What's it called? A fletchet. So he's like a human fletchet cannon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dodge all you want. You know, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. And it's not. And Hawkman comes out with like no shirt on. You know, he's Fabio.
At first, his nipples get cut off.
Yeah. First in the. So Marcus, what do you think?
I was thinking Archangel beats him because of that, and I think Archangel's physically stronger than him as well. I mean, if it was a fist fight, and he's faster, way faster. I mean, we're assuming that Hawkman goes really fast, but Hawkman's not going Mach 2, Mach 3. No. Archangel is like the souped-up version of Angel and Hawkman put together.
Yeah.
And if it's the villainish Archangel or Warren in a Berserker race, he's just as brutal.
Yeah.
You know, he's just as brutal as. I mean, we know that Hawkman's brutal.
Yeah, well, somebody's got to what's words with you. What do you want to say? What were you saying about Marcus?
There we go.
I got this. I went to a local comic fair 2 weeks ago, and picked this up. So
yeah, there you go.
Very much on Team Archangel today. Yeah. Now I just missed what Marcus was saying there, although Marcus usually talks a lot of sense. So I'm sure it wasn't that crazy. What were you saying, Marcus? What did I miss?
No, I was just trying to start a fight.
Oh,
well,
I've got my NYPD hat on for all of you in the US of A.
So
thank you.
He's coming from New Zealand. When his camera came in, I actually had to flip it because it comes in upside down. So
right, yeah.
So what do you think, I was going to save mine for last, and then you popped in.
All right, Archangel wins. Hawkman is tough. He's a brawler. He's got some reasonably decent weapon skills and some armaments, but the speed and ferocity of Archangel is probably a decisive factor. Archangel has a number of wins via decaffeination, and I see that going very much the same way. That if Hawkman had a degree of invulnerability or a force field or something, maybe, but I don't think he can resist. He might be able to resist the feathers, which interfere with your neurons and paralyze you, but I don't think he could withstand a slicing attack from Archangel. And Archangel's speed, his flying speed, I think is faster than sound with the Apocalypse upgrade. So I'm going to say very much Archangel takes this one.
Yeah, I think this is this the first time we all agreed?
I think we
do. Yeah.
I say Archangel, however you pronounce it. as much as I love Hawkman, I don't like Warren Worthington, so I don't like either version of him. But comic book logic dictates that I think. Now, the only thing is, if I could, I brought it up earlier just to make this, is that Claw of Horus. You know, with that Claw of Horus, he was able to like utilize the gravity of the Earth to actually hurt Superman. But that's too MacGuffin-y for me. Like I always say, like I want to use the typical version. The typical version of Batman, he doesn't have access to the Martian Manhunter spaceship like he had in one story. The typical version of Wolverine, he didn't have cosmic powers. You know what I mean? So the typical Jeff Johns.
Well, tie goes to the razor blade that can fly Mach 3.
Right. So
T-Buddy is correct from the beginning of the stream, as a matter of fact.
Okay. Now, here's the question. Okay. Here's the question, which is also the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
How would we write a scenario where Hawkman can beat him?
Oh, okay. How can you make
Oh,
a
enclosed space? Limited space.
I was thinking that, along with the fact that, okay, Apocalypse is from ancient Egypt. Hawkman is from.
Oh, wow. I love this already. All right.
So, now we're talking.
Where Hawkman can be in the pyramids and right off, and without needing a tricorder or having manuals to decipher, he can just look at it and read what's going on, and he already knows what the layout is.
Well, you could do like a Narnia scenario where he's like, well, that technology you've got, I was there when it was written.
Yeah. Or how about this? I'm thinking of this. Stippling, you're putting some thoughts into my head. Carter Hall was originally supposed to be a reincarnation of a pharaoh. Mm-hmm. So this pharaoh dealt with Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Apocalypse killed this pharaoh, and then Shara and Carter
reincarnated. Present version.
Okay.
He remembers how he died. So now he's been preparing over the generations. So now when he's meeting the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, he's literally got 2,000 years worth of planning and expertise and go-how.
Yeah.
How does that sound?
I like it.
How does the Sphinx from Nova work into this, though?
How does the what?
The Sphinx, the villain from Nova.
Oh, man.
Also
you're turning this into an annual, Marcus.
Well, he's from Egypt, right?
You're turning this into an 80s annual. Now actually
don't bring in Ramatut.
Yeah.
There you go. Ramatut. Now we got Kang going down. The Avengers are coming in.
And don't forget, Vandal Savage is taking advantage of all of the chaos.
Vandal Savage.
120 pages.
Yeah. And we got
Dick Dillon.
Of course, we're going to have
who's going to write it, though?
Oh, this is fun.
We're going to resurrect Len Wein.
All right, Stippling, start doing your dots. You got 6 months.
Well, I don't believe Louise Simonson's doing anything, and she's
alive. Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, but it's got to be written.
Anybody can write it.
It's got to be drawn by Dick Dillon.
What about the ghost of Mark Grunwald?
Grunwald would definitely kill it.
We're going to bring back Dick Dillon for the first half and George Perez for the second half.
Then
we're going to get the Ultimate Justice League Avengers crossover.
There you go.
How about like this? We call it amalgamation.
So.
We take all of the Egyptian Marvel and all.
Ellenberg's got a good idea.
And then the funny thing is, what's his name? Yeah, you already mentioned Ramatut has to get in this.
But then Kang is involved.
Living Monolith.
The Living Monolith.
Oh, I love the Living Monolith.
Yeah.
Oh, Neil Adams' Living Monolith is just a thing of beauty, eh?
That Mark Silvestri, remember they had him destroy New York? And that was a fun comic.
I guess you got to bring in Moon Knight and Khonshu, too.
Moon Knight, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to deal with Egypt, mythology, you got to bring in Moon Knight.
I will say this.
We can go as far as ISIS, too.
Well, we have to change
Black Adam, Captain Marvel shows up, Shazam.
Mm-hmm.
We have to change ISIS's name, however.
And then, like I when somebody said Thanos, I was like, why? And then I remembered Thanos' origin was ancient Egypt. Yeah,
nice.
There you go.
Not Thanos, the Sphinx.
The Sphinx.
Ancient it's my honeymoon photo.
Nice.
My wife,
nice.
that's her dream. She wants. I gotta take her to the pyramids.
If you can, John, It's do it. It's totally worth it. 100%. That was our honeymoon. Went to Egypt. Absolutely worth it. You've got to, if you can in this lifetime, you've got to do it.
Her Egyptian, the money that I saved up for her Egyptian trip turned into this.
Well, you could pick out one really expensive comic to sell, and you could tender to Egypt. It would be your ultimate sacrifice, John.
These are not the comics you're looking to sell.
It would be. It would be your ultimate sacrifice for your wife.
So, so that Spider-Man that you never bring up.
Egypt's an amazing place.
So we got
totally worth your time.
We got 5 people in the panel and innumerable people in the chat. We all seem to agree. I think there's one holdout that says Hawkman would win.
Yeah.
I will say this: any version of Hawkman will beat the Angel.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Oh yeah.
With Golden Age,
the Golden Age one could breathe underwater.
Wait a second. One of Hawkman's incarnations was Nighthawk in the West, in the Wild Wild West. I think that's the version that Angel would be able to beat.
Yeah, because he couldn't fly.
Right.
Well, just he'd have the high ground.
Right.
Mm.
But I would go as far as say even Hawk Girl or Hawk Woman would probably have beaten Angel.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I think that the mullet version of Hawkman that Graham Nolan drew could beat Angel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mullet superheroes automatically, if this is a role-playing game, you deduct 5 points off your intelligence and add it to like your feistiness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mullet
power,
Superman,
baby. Mullet power.
Mullet Superman knocked out the Hulk, but got beat up by Venom. So what does that mean?
Dan Jurgens claims that wasn't a mullet.
See, there we go.
Well, okay then. Fair enough.
Hey, business in the front, party in the back, though. I'm sorry. That's
Can you clarify this comment? We didn't do any comic book speculating. We just created a crossover event that spans the
Come on now.
dynasty. I'm my Egyptian lover, so I'm playing in last year. He signed all my records.
Nice.
Toto would do the soundtrack.
Toto.
I don't know. Queen.
Arvangelis.
I don't know.
Nice.
I'm not going for Toto. Toto is a pretty corporate rock for him.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Walks and quacks like a mullet. Yeah. So there you go. I don't think. I thought Oscar was going to come in the panel since he's been pushing for this one for a while. So this one wasn't too controversial. I mean, it was a lot of fun. I really like that speculation that we started to coming up with it. Like, guys, like it's just. Wouldn't you love to like work for Marvel or DC and like with like an editor like Danny O'Neill who actually or Mark Gruenberg?
Well,
Jim Shooter.
But the problem is we actually love comics,
right? Yeah.
So with the present administration, there's no way we'd work at Marvel and DC.
Jim Shooter would do that crossover.
Jim Shooter would definitely do that crossover.
Yeah, I meant speculation as in buying extra copies to sell later. I tell this, I laugh at myself. I did exactly one speculation in my life when the Tarzan came out. What was it?
Really?
John Buscema or Sal
Buscema's Tarzan.
John Buscema's Tarzan, 30 cents. I bought 2 copies because I thought that was going to be worth a lot.
Well, it was the first Tarzan #1 in forever because DC took over the Dell numbering.
Yeah.
Or Gold Key numbering, whichever one.
One story though, Jim Shooter, he was on John's show, but I saw him at HeroCon and I asked him about the kind of a follow-up question because he answered this question on John's show.
Did you say I saw you on John's long box just to?
Yeah, I did.
Thank you.
But I told him I told him I was the guy that asked him this question. He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that." He liked the question. But I asked him how much was Louise Simonson involved with the being the architect of Mutant Massacre because it was such a seminal event in Marvel history, And I said because I saw a lot of Louise Simonson all throughout it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, she was pretty much the architect of it." And he says, "But of course, I got fired in that they didn't." What came out was good, but it wasn't what I would have done. Yeah, I was like, that's so Jim Shooter though. It's considered one of the greatest it's considered one of the greatest crossovers of Marvel, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I would have done better than that," you know.
I would love to have him back and talk about his post-Marvel years. You know,
Yeah, that would be interesting. Even I didn't get. I would talk to him for a couple hours at the bar.
Yeah,
and we and this other guy Sean, we were asking him questions, and really even we didn't even get. He has so much that it's at the Marvel years. We didn't even get to the post Marvel years that much. And
evidently, to get what we got out of Marvel, he had to like butt heads every stinking day with the people at the top just to get
the
what we got.
The creators really didn't realize that when they decided they hated him so much.
No, they hated him, and he was like defending them for all sorts of bad ideas. You know,
he put down so. I had a friend who worked for Don Perlin at Marvel, you know, and the Raiders. Remember the Raiders. And Don called them up. You got to come over and work for Valiant. And they said, this is what you got to do. And there was a list of rules. And my friend never went because I can't draw comics under those rules. That's why Valiant looked the way it did, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
So that's one of the as he got on, he had more rules, and it would drive people like Byrne or Miller nuts.
Right.
You know, so they're always fighting with him.
And you know what? That's what kills me the most, because it's like a lot of times rules and censorship, they are integral, and I mean integral for creativity.
Yeah.
You think about music alone and how musicians had to get around like Dance with Me, Make Love, Pearl Necklace, all these things that had so much sexual innuendo just to get it by the censors, and they're so much more memorable than what we get.
No way.
I don't disagree.
No, we gotta go.
Well, hang on though. I'd just like to respond to that in the context of the Jim Shooter interview that John did, which we've all seen. We all know it's amazing. But remember what Shooter said about how he had to curtail Art Adams' work on the New Mutants covers because they were over-sexualized. And if you think about two things, Art has an audience, yeah? Mm-hmm. So you got to think about the audience for those books, but also subject matter that it's arguable that the New Mutants during that period were over-sexualized given they were teenagers, young teenagers, right?
Yeah.
X-Men themselves a bit older, but the New Mutants, different story. So Shooter exercised editorial discretion, which is censorship, but he did it in a way that made sense. Right. You know, that's my response to that.
They want to know about like what Shooter did before Marvel, after Marvel. They're out there on the internet, comic historians on YouTube. Yeah. There's a 7 hour, 45-minute interview with Shooter with like a 1.5 hour follow up. And it's fascinating.
Like when it comes to Shooter, the proof is in the pudding. Like everybody loves those comics. They're great comics.
It's funny, everybody that calls him an asshole, and then you're like, what's your favorite era? And they're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Look who the
Ultimate Shooter comic is Secret Wars 1. He basically laid it out, and you could see all the far shots, the medium shots. There's not too many close-ups. All what he wanted was if you punch somebody or use the power, it would happen in the same panel.
Yeah.
And the guys who followed it, Bob Layton followed that a lot, you know.
Yeah.
And there's different ways to make that exciting. And I think you could use a more close-ups here or there. But that's what they were dealing with. And after a while, they're like, he had a lot of pressure on him at the end. I mean, it changes your personality.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't like about the beginning and the middle. Everybody was having a good old time.
I look at it.
He did fire Denny O'Neil, by the way.
Everybody fired Denny O'Neil though.
I'm a construction worker.
Denny O'Neil was lazy.
I'm an electrician, and we always say like getting electricians is like herding cats. So everybody has these extreme personalities, and everybody hates the foreman. But if we don't, like every job I go to, I'm like, hey, how's this job? What's going on? Oh, the foreman, Marcus, he's an asshole, blah, 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 blah. Every job I went to, coincidentally, every foreman was an asshole. But the foreman has to be an asshole because we're troublemakers. We're trying to sneak out early. We're on our phones in the corner. You know, you spend 20 minutes smoking a joint in the porta pot. You know what I mean? So like the foreman's it's like we made him an asshole kind of thing. So like
it answers a lot of questions about the whole human race.
Right. It's like
whatever's going around now, and all our our loves and things that are both comics and whatever, and just think about that, what you just said, and that's why all that stuff happens.
Right.
And what do they say about Trump all the time?
He's an asshole.
He's
whatever. And yet, in 4 days of his erstwhile, pre-presidency, he's ended about 4 wars and turned away a caravan from the border.
My point is, everybody hates the guy in charge because the guy in charge has to be a jerk. The job.
Well, they're afraid of him.
I got it because that guy
they really are.
Foreman's getting yelled at by the safety guy, by the general contractor, by the owner of the shop, and then he's dealing with a guy with substance abuse who can't come to work 3 times a week. You know what I mean? I always give the foreman the benefit of the doubt, and I don't like most of them, but that's what Jim Shooter was.
What Shooter did at Marvel was they had one editor for all that time. It was on the Stan Lee thing. And Stan Lee was the editor, the only editor. And then everybody, as the line expanded in the 70s, everybody tried to be the only editor. And with an assistant, with a helper. So Jerry Conway and Len Wein and Marv Wolfman and Archie Goodwin twice. Probably Goodwin would have been the best one, but they couldn't take the job. They had to answer to the front office, the suits, and the creators. What he did was bring the DC style of art of editor, where you have a fiefdom. Like Julius Schwartz had these comics, Mort Weisinger had these comics, Jack Schiff had these comics. He brought that to Marvel, where you had an editor and assistant editor. So Mark Grunwald had these comics, Louise Simons had these comics, Ann Nesenti had those comics when she was an editor. And then basically left the editors alone. He left them alone. He wasn't being his iron hand wasn't there. He left the editors work.
Chuck Dixon said that he left Larry Hama alone because Larry Hama.
Larry Hama.
He knew what he was doing. He didn't have to go.
Now he tried to flip through every book to catch stuff. That's how he caught the Phoenix. The death of Phoenix came about and stuff. Couldn't catch everything. And so what ended up happening was these editors hired, like Louise Simpson was a genius. She was editor at Warren. She was already a genius editor. They knew, let Frank Miller do what he wants. We're going to let him write. That's what these editors did. They didn't always have to go back to Shooter unless it's really big. So they were all little fiefdoms, and they had to work together if they had team ups, and then all those fiefdoms got messed up when they started having all the crossovers every summer, and then it got to be messy. But
they always followed canon.
Yes,
and they never.
But that was important to him,
and they never broke the characters.
And remember, Jim Shooter was dealing with a bunch of artists, and artists by nature are temperamental. I'm very temperamental. If I started up a comic company and I hired
drama queens, they're all drama queens.
I'd like that to be called a queen, though. But thank you.
If I hired all of you guys, paid you
Your Highness,
we would be fighting within 2 years. It's just the nature of the beast. It's just the nature of the beast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, if you're married, then you complain to your wife and get it all out there and not worry about it. That's what I usually do.
Yeah, but the thing is, you yell at her and then
I fight with Marcus's wife all the time.
Quit. And that shuts you up real fast. See, here you go, John. You hire all of us, but then you hire our wives to be the editors, and you don't have any problems.
But that only works if your wife is Louise Samuelson, though.
Oh no. No.
No. I fantasize about that. If my wife's like, if we hit the lottery, what would you do? She goes, besides run a comic book company. She already knows what the chance is.
Listen, I've had the same thing. What did you do? Before all this crowdfunding and everything, if I hit the lottery, I would publish my own comic book. Publish it. We published a comic book, but we didn't really publish it.
Yeah.
So I guess it's that time of the night. What do you think should be the next Clobbering time?
Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul.
I want to see that.
I'm definitely seeing that next week.
This is a good suggestion. I kind of like
Denny O'Neil, Jim Shooter.
Well, Jim Shooter fired Denny O'Neil. So
how about Rorschach versus The Question?
That's a good one.
That's not that bad. I'd actually have to read Watchmen again. Good God.
Do you ever do villain matchups?
Yeah, sure. You got a good one?
Villain.
Well, no, I just thinking. Or teams. Because I've always thought Batman and the Outsiders from like 1985 against the 1985 X-Men, maybe.
You know, the original Batman and the Outsiders were a really powerhouse team.
They were yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, they were and they weren't.
Yeah.
I mean,
they were pretty OP.
I'm just
Mike
gonna
Murphy
well,
was a good writer.
John, I've just done the stats for them for your V&V forum.
Oh, you
For
did?
Yeah, I've done the stats for all of them. So you'll be able to draw your own conclusions on that. They were and they weren't. They weren't as powerful as say the Justice League, who are almost demigods, right? But the Outsiders were a lot more fallible, and that made their stories a lot more enjoyable. You know.
Yeah.
How about the Green Goblin versus the Joker?
That one comes up a lot.
It's not bad.
I hope the Green Goblin wins because I hate the Joker, but I'll try to be confident.
What about
Well, they're both gadget. They're
Like
both
Stickles, do
gadget
you have one?
guys, and they both are evil, and they're both, kind of like,
Okay, I got Mark Hamill versus Robert De Niro, two villains right there.
Yeah, there you go.
Can we put
It's
them
the
on a bar?
TDS battle of the TDS. Who has worse?
With or without
TDS?
lightsabers.
Put them on a barge and just push the barge out to sea, and then we all win?
yeah?
But like Viking style, like throw.
Yeah, why do
shoot
they don't
like
realize
flaming
it's-
arrows.
The funeral pyre.
I do like the Fantastic Four versus the Elementals, but Fantastic Four are going to cream them. I mean,
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
element. Yeah, I was reading.
Yeah,
some of that.
they would. They would. Unfortunately.
Darkseid versus Thanos is like a natural one.
Yeah.
I've been having that one in the back of my mind for like a week where we really, really get stumped.
Have you
But
ever
with or
done?
without the Infinity Gems, you know.
Have you ever done Hulk versus Red Hulk?
Hulk versus Red Hulk.
Mhm.
That's like every other issue of the comic, though, right?
Well, you're great. Never mind.
Well, the thing is,
I never
I
been
was thinking of
definitive,
this:
though.
Julius Schwartz versus Stan Lee.
And me.
well, what I've always noticed with this show is that what works is when you pit a Marvel versus DC character, or you do Star Wars versus Star Trek. I like that one.
Right. That was one of my favorites. I
That
really
was a
like
good
that
one.
Yeah.
I think we called this Clobber time. I don't think
it's
we've
not
done
a
the
thing.
thing.
Characters are as powerful as the character made them to be. You may not like a character. Yeah,
Okay, I think I got it. Okay, Black Adam versus what is that dude's name? The blonde-haired Sentry.
Oh, this Black Adam versus
Black
Sentry.
Adam versus the Sentry.
I like the
Tell you what,
Sentry.
hold on.
I like both of them.
Instead of us deciding now, we've now thrown out these ideas that John can now think of it all week long. And then,
Well, I like everybody to come up with it. I don't want to be like a dictator. You know.
I'm not saying dictator, but I like
Hey,
that.
he could do an online poll like Lopez.
or
True,
even
very
that-
true.
I
For the
wanted
gray
to
beards, for the gay beards.
I wanted to address Logic Finest comments because I always enjoy his comments. They're pretty thoughtful. OP is not a thing. Characters are as powerful as the creator made them to be. You may not like a character, but it's not somebody you could touch. It's fiction at the end. Yes.
Well, yeah.
I will say, like, power creep happens. You know, like
Yeah.
perfect
yeah.
example, Claw of Horus could take out Superman now. Like, where'd that come from?
Especially in
power.
female characters since about 2015.
But you know, like Superman became OP. Like, to me, I don't care how powerful Superman is. It's Superman. He's the exception rather than the rule, kind of thing. Like, to me, I don't like that Batman's taking out the Flash and Wonder Woman and everybody else. That to me is OP. But like here's my problem with OP. It's when an immature person makes up a character who's the best. You know, that the Mary Sue, like, you know, that's to me is like immature. So like if you made a character who's like the most powerful character and like that's the point of the character and you got stories about him being too powerful, that's okay.
I've got it. All right. Snake Eyes versus Daredevil.
Snake Eyes versus Daredevil?
The mute versus the blind guy.
No,
Daredevil versus Snake Eyes.
So the Paralympics episode.
Guy, I know
There
you go.
better.
Paralympics episode.
Oh, Hunter's
Come on.
Black Widow's not bad. Zactan.
Clusio, I don't know who Clusio is.
Cluso. Detective Clouseau versus
Clouseau. Billy Batson
yeah.
versus Kal-El.
Inspector
Billy
Clouseau.
Batson versus Kal-El. I was funny because I was just thinking that today, Captain Marvel versus Shazam, and I'm saying Shazam as much as I love Superman.
Well, you gotta say, there's nothing you can do about it.
Does the Sentry come with the void? Of course he could. That's like saying does Green Lantern not come with the weakness of the
void?
Huntress versus Black Widow is a good one. See, I
That's
don't know.
not bad.
And
we get to look at all sexy pictures of them while we're doing the
Tony.
research.
Like if you were to come on and talk through this, I don't know these characters.
Those yeah, I know a little bit because I had kids.
I don't know either of these two.
Yes, I have Mary Sue.
Mary Sue. No E.
Of Heroic Tales, and it's SU because it's an actual Chinese last name. Yeah, and that's the whole purpose, is that she's OP, but she's not OP. Logic Finest just gave me special dispensation. The Shadow versus the Punisher is a good one. There's a lot of good ones.
I like the ones where I can put artwork that I drew. Like I drew the Shadow for a commission once. Then I could say, "Look, I drew this."
Yeah,
that's a good point. I've said that before. Totally agree. Logic's Finest. Totally agree.
It's funny because
I like Mongol. That's a cool.
As we, I always turn everything back into my role playing games. I play my superhero role playing game, and every time I bring it up, anybody who's played it, they say, "Oh yeah, but it's swingy. You can have a super powerful character," and I always say, "Well, that's the Avengers. You have the Wasp and Ant-Man on a team with Thor and Hulk. So I like it, to address Logic's Finest. That's a story to, like, could anybody beat the Justice League army or the JSA army that Jeff Johns had? You know what I mean? There was like 30 members on that team, or the Legion of Superheroes. The whole purpose of that was to defeat like world conquering threats and spread them out. So yeah, I agree. The Shadow versus the Punisher. I think the strength as absolute while power is relative. I think there might be a typo in there. I don't really understand. So anybody, what do you think? There's a lot of good choices. Do we want to bite the bullet and finally do the Joker versus Green Goblin?
Sure, why not?
I'll probably be watching, as I say, Tyson v. Paul, which is about this time next week.
Oh, so yeah, we'll have two people.
I can almost guarantee you I won't be able to make it.
Okay.
Yeah. But you do, John, is your channel, it is your channel, your rules. You do what you think would be best.
Yeah.
I like being a moderator on this, like on Sunday Comics, that's me solo, you know what I mean? But this to me is the guests make it fun. Okay. Yeah, Amazo. Yeah, that was the whole purpose of Amazo.
I didn't like Amazo. He drove me nuts.
Nah.
And I appreciate anything now, but back when I was a kid, I didn't like that.
Didn't they beat him by disbanding the Justice League?
Yeah, it's something weird.
Yeah. They always, that's the first time though. He was one of those characters where it's like they always had the reason for beating him never seemed plausible.
Right.
Yeah, the concept though, the concept of the enemy that you cannot overcome with force, that you have to overcome with something else, is a good one, right? It's a good storytelling element, but that relies on a satisfying conclusion, right? And I think you're right. I've got that Kid Amazo story from the Justice League, and that's super unsatisfying. The end of it.
With the Justice League in the 60s, oftentimes they did that every week. They had so many powerful characters that they all had to act really dumb to get defeated. You got the Flash, Green Lantern, Superman, forget Batman. Batman and Green Arrow didn't have powers, and like you can read it, they always had to have an excuse why this guy, like on their own, Green Lantern can beat most of these villains. And we know Superman has all the powers. And until the Justice League didn't get to doing some different things in the later 70s, 80s, even the Detroit League, you like the Detroit League, that was more of a difference. It was hard to just the 60s, they tried, but it was hard for them to come up with they were so overpowered. The Avengers weren't over as
Tim Hunter versus Harry Potter.
Oh, Tim Hunter was super.
That would be interesting. That
read up on Tim Hunter.
I gotta go, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay, good night, mate. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
No, that Tim Hunter versus. Yeah, that Tim Hunter versus Harry Potter. That one, I remember talking to you guys about that one the one Sunday.
Okay. That one's so off the wall. It just might be a fun talk.
Yeah.
How about how about Harry Potter versus Tim Hunter? Because I mean, now we're not even talking about. I mean, we could talk about the fight, but we could talk about the similarities in the characters. But that's as far as I want to go, because then we'll start getting into that. But yeah, how's that sound, guys?
That's fine with me. Whatever it is.
We'll do Tim Hunter versus Harry Potter, and then eventually down the road we'll get to the Green Lantern. I mean, Green Goblin and the Joker.
You got to save Thanos' dark side for a real special occasion.
Yeah. The question: who created the Speed Force for the Flash? Was it Mark Waid?
Yes.
Either him or Grant Morrison, one of the two.
Yeah.
No, it was. I remember it was Wade.
Was it Wade?
Yeah, because he took over. Yeah, I remember because when he started, it had. I don't remember who the interior artist was, but Alan Davis was doing the covers. Quite a bit.
I hated the Speed Force. It just gave rise. It just gave rise to 80 million speedsters. Nobody was unique anymore.
It's like midi-chlorians, right?
Right.
Well, they did have a lot of speedsters in DC Universe, and now why do they all have speed? Johnny Quick, Max Mercury, they were all part of the lore.
But they also have a lot of super strong guys.
Flash, why?
There's a lot of super intelligence guys. Is there a brain force?
Well, maybe.
Just tie it.
I know what you're saying. I'm just trying to think about
the Speed Force is like they could travel through time. They could stay alive through the team. Did they say it was like an aspect of the Source from Jack Kirby's Fourth World?
Don't know.
I kind of remember them doing that. Mr. Terrific.
I think the Speed Force and these things are type of things where Mark Waid and the artists who are doing it with Mark, they can handle doing the Speed Force, but subsequent writers and subsequent artists cannot handle doing the Speed Force. Good,
that's true.
As this creator could handle the Speed Force, but nobody else really can.
No.
It's a MacGuffin for everybody else, except for the guy who created the lore.
We're getting a Bogan rating. We're getting the
welcome, guys. Welcome.
That was the problem with John Byrne runs on Comics A. That John Byrne would come along and evolve the characters, take them in interesting directions, redefine some of them a bit, and then someone else have to pick it up, and it would just kind of suck. Like West Coast Avengers.
Talking about how many
West Coast Avengers.
How many people can really handle some of that stuff? The next writer didn't do the Speed Force. It didn't understand it. It was a complicated thing. Mark Waid could understand it, so it works good. It worked when he did it. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Mark Waid versus Kurt Busiek.
With the equal amounts of TDS, so I think that
what this made me think of something. Mr. Terrific versus Batman.
That's interesting.
Which Mr. Terrific?
The modern one.
Okay.
The modern Mr. Terrific versus Batman. But we'll do Harry Potter versus what's his name? Harry Potter versus
Tim Hunter.
Tim Hunter. Yeah. John Byrne Superman versus Jerry Ordway Superman. And
Neil Gaiman versus Alan Moore.
Just my comic is still on Fund My Comic, and the Mike Gustovich cover has migrated there, so you can get all the covers. If you already bought my comic, and I don't want to spend another $10 on shipping, let me know. We'll work something out. I'm not a bad guy. I'm not trying to jip anybody, but I would love to get that Mike Gustovich cover out into the world more than it is.
I backed it. I said I had to back it at that last time.
Is it available electronically, John?
I think West Coast Avengers.
The PDF is the Renzo cover.
Right. I like the West Coast Avengers. I remember the first miniseries was real good. Anyway.
Well, here's my thing: is that the reason why I like the West Coast Avengers was because for me as a kid, they were all unknown. So I was learning them from
you like all those things.
Whereas the Avengers, it was like I knew of Thor. I knew of Captain America. And as one of those where it's like, I'm sorry. It's like, here's the, like, I never got on. I never became a Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman fan because before I discovered comic books, I already knew about them, and it's just like from like paper plates to coloring books. And I was like, yeah. But when you discover this Justice League, when you discover Justice League of America, and you have all these other characters, they're the ones sucking me in, not those three characters. Same thing with the Avengers.
Right.
Hawk. Who's this girl who has those little shafts that spring out from her arm?
Sorry.
That's okay. I mean, who's this girl? Who's this tiger girl in a bikini? I preferred those I mean, the whole concept with these brand new characters I don't know anything about. I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
I just thought that made me think Tigra versus Starfire.
Starfire.
In a mud pit, we all win.
In Jello.
Cute little Sheba.
Yeah, Tiger was about.
Come on in, Michael. Come on in.
It's like liking Wonder Man.
We won't let you. We won't tell you that this guy down here is from New Zealand. We won't.
It's funny you say that, Stippling, because like the whole idea, the original idea of Avengers, they had all the big characters, and Stanley goes, "No, I want the smaller characters," and he went with Cap's Kooky Quartet.
Mm-hmm.
And like, what the heck is going on now? And he slowly brought the other ones back. And I wanted Iron Man.
I started collecting the Avengers with 150, so I kind of liked that. Like the Avengers was like the B-list characters. To me, Captain America should always lead the Avengers, but I like.
I think so. Yeah.
But also, you guys.
But Thor, he had his own comic. He should,
That's how Stan Lee felt.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Also, is you got to remember is look at the creative team of the Avengers when they came up with the West Coast Avengers. I wasn't crazy about the artwork, and I really wasn't crazy about the characters in it. Because they're all known, these brand new unknown characters, they looked cool. They had a great art team.
Well, the miniseries had Bob Hall. I forget who inked it, but the regular comic had Al Milgrom and Joe Sinnott.
That was the Avengers.
They switched over to West Coast Avengers when they started the long term.
So Michael Bancroft showed up. It's good to see you, Mike.
And John Buscema took over the Avengers and Tom Palmer, and then they gave them the best.
This show.
I didn't mind it. I love Joe Sinnott, so
I can't stay, John. I just want to pop in and say hi say hi to everyone, and keep up the great work, John. I got to go actually play with my kids because it's the middle of the day here, and I've been ignoring them.
We can tell.
So, just enjoy yourself, everyone, and I'll see you all around. Just want to say hi.
Hello.
You guys.
Always good to see you, Frank. Always good to see you.
Bye.
The ambassador
Take care, mate.
for indie comics, if you ask me.
They should name the award after him tomorrow. I'm not going to be in it because I'm draw stream now. I do a draw stream at the same time as the chat.
Well, then you got to have a second. Then you got to do a 3-screen Mafia so you can be doing your.
I have my work laptop.
We already did Doctor Strange versus Dr. Fate.
I'll try to figure it out on my phone.
Yeah.
A year from now, we're going to be doing Scarlet Witch versus Mary Sue because they basically have the same powers. West Coast
Strange, Dr. Fate, yeah.
How dare you raise the next generation instead of hanging out with it? Yeah, it's very irresponsible if you ask me. Hanging out with kids. Fathers are supposed to be watching TV.
Power Girl versus Lady Death. Let's see.
There you go.
Let's go.
The Phantom versus the Batman. I love the idea of all of these original pulp characters versus Batman.
I like Phantom. I don't know. I like the idea of the Phantom, but I haven't read that much of the Phantom.
Yeah, I don't. Really, my only exposure to the Phantom is the movie.
I remember.
We remember.
I remember the news strip when he had a Stegosaurus.
He didn't. I never got him in the paper. I got the Spider-Man strip.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. I remember he had a white Stegosaurus, an albino Stegosaurus, in the newsprint comic. Or the strips.
I remember there was a kid that was older than me. I think I was like 14 and he was 16, 17. And he would give me comic books. So like, I'll give you this comic book so we could go swimming in the pool because he was poor and didn't have a pool. And my mother was like, you're being used. I'm like, Mom, I'm getting a comic book. So she made him stop giving me comics. I was like, oh, wow, you ruined a good thing. But he gave me a lot of Dell comics, and I remember the Phantom being one of them.
Now,
Conan
big fan of
was Batman.
I remember being a big fan of the Phantom because I loved animals. He had a
Yeah,
wolf,
here's a dog.
horse. It was in the jungle, so every once in a while you had like monkeys and such. But
Tarzan.
my head is that
Yeah,
had a
Ambush bug.
They really can't bring back Tarzan and the Phantom because that's that white man trope with in the jungle, you know.
It's not just that; it's that they don't fit in with. You couldn't do a modern day Phantom. You can't do a modern day Tarzan.
Like Zorro. Zorro belongs in this time period.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's right.
And let's be honest. I mean, if you did it in that time period, I don't care about the whole white man thing. I don't care.
John Wick versus the Punisher.
The Shadow. John Wick versus the Punisher. That'll be brilliant.
The shadows of its time too.
Right. I don't think the Shadow should be in modern times.
Mm-hmm.
Like people ask me about like are you going to use any of Matt? Matt, why aren't you coming in? Matt, come on in.
He has work to do.
He's probably working and listening.
He's always working.
But people keep asking me about like why can't I think of the term old character, public domain characters? And I keep saying like the thing about public domain characters is they're products of the time. Like for every like Superman transcends. Again, Superman to me is the exception to every rule for like almost every fictional character. But that's Superman. Like, but Batman really is like a pulp like Batman in the world of cell phones and constant surveillance doesn't really work. Like Batman now has to be like a part of law enforcement, because how are you going to be not known as Bruce Wayne when you're Bruce Wayne? You know what I mean? Everywhere you look, this, you know, he like Batman.
Yeah, well, technology, you know.
Well, he owns Facebook, so he just deletes all the comment, all the content.
Not all the Seinfeld episodes. So many of them have to deal with the telephone, like the actual wired telephone. How can you do some of those episodes with the cell phone? You're on the answering machine list.
Right.
Who has an answering machine list anymore? And I'm old. I watched them originally, so it's great.
Like that movie, Run Lolita Run. Run Lolita.
Yeah.
North by Northwest.
Run Lola Run.
5 minutes.
Yeah, Run Lola Run. You can't do that now. You just have a cell phone. She's like, "Oh, come on. Okay, come pick me up. Bye." The credits
North by Northwest is over in 10 minutes. You know.
Yeah, so it's like I think
anything that deals with the regular phone.
And everybody who does do public domain characters, they do the same thing. They got trapped in suspendium and they got released now. Like even Alan Moore did it, you know, that they all got trapped from so they got the superpowers with Alex Ross and Jim Kruger. They did it, you know. I don't know. I'd rather make up my own characters than.
Well, tell you what. How about if we do it this way? If we're going to do public domain characters, then we each get a decade. John, you can have World War II. Mark, you get to do their descendants in the 50s.
Oh, okay.
I'll take care of their descendants in the 60s. Or actually, how about we jump 20 years? So, John, you get World War II and you get the 50s. Marcus, you get the 60s and the 70s. I'll take the 80s and the 90s, and you, sir, can do the modern day. So there we go. We have it where, just like Justice League of America, the kid becomes the child becomes a superhero from the father, then the grandfather, and the grandchild. The list is being passed down.
It's funny. I write a story about
the problem.
I write a story about them stopping like Japanese saboteurs, and you know, and they all have big smiles as they're doing it. And then you in the 80s, the kid's addicted to drugs and passed out in an alleyway.
I think Mark Millar did that with Jupiter's Circle and Jupiter's Legacy.
Mark Millar's done everything.
Yeah.
First, the Punisher is a good one. That's a really
Ooh, yeah.
I like the same.
What about the comedian versus the Joker?
The comedian versus Nick Fury.
I like I said, anybody versus the Joker. Anybody,
Nick Fury of Marvel Max.
I just picture the comedians like, yeah, that's real funny. You want to hear a funny joke? Bam! That's funny joke. End of the story. The Scarlet Pimpernel is a character I really don't know much about.
The first superhero, really.
Isn't he like Victorian England or something? It's funny.
Yes. Well, he's the first one
I had
to
a
use
role-playing scenario
where
where everybody was, it was like the Musketeer time, and they were going to be like Victorian secret agents going into the Islamic what empire is that? Is Istanbul?
Ottoman?
The Ottoman Empire. They
The
go
Ottoman Empire?
because they need to recover this artifact. And I don't want to spoil what the artifact is because I still might do this story if Heroic Tales lasts.
I like Tony's idea.
Tony, where are we? The Trickster versus the Joker. That's a good
No, above that one. Doc Savage versus Buckaroo Banzai. That would be a heck of a crossover. Screw the verses. I want to see a team up.
Yeah, I was just thinking that'd be better as a team up. That.
Yeah, that would be okay. That would be more of a okay. Let's write a script and what's the scenario where they come together and what's the situation?
They cross the 10th dimension. It writes itself.
Yeah. To be honest, John, if that might be another show concept you go for, as well as Clobbering Times, which is versus, is actually a team up. You have a team up stream as well.
Yeah, well, on Wednesdays I do comic book team up with RJ.
Oh, brilliant!
It's just me and RJ. We try to get like an unknown person.
Mickey Mouse, a bloody vigilante. Yeah. The story Disney's been aching to tell us.
First off, I never liked Mickey Mouse. I'm sorry, Disney. I don't like Mickey Mouse. When it comes to cartoon characters, if it's Bugs Bunny is the king, Woody Woodpecker is under him, and then somewhere,
the original Mickey and the original Mickey comics, just like Fuller Goddess, are supposed to be really, really good. But as he became a corporate entity, of course, he got cleaned up. The original Mickey, with the red.
That's what Chuck Dixon says. Is he was actually sarcastic and had a personality.
Yeah, he had personality.
Now he's just like, oh, there's water everywhere, guys. There's water. What do you do? Dr. Sin, aka the Scarecrow versus Zorro. I like Zorro. I really do like Zorro. Dude, Dr. Sin. Who's Dr. Sin? Why can't I think of who Dr. Sin is? Jupiter's like, I'm so glad Mark Millar didn't ask me any questions about his comics. I'm like so behind on his. I got them all. I'm so behind.
Did you read my comic? No, I didn't.
No. Jupiter's like the last good one I read.
He did. By the way, Mark Millar, you didn't fill out the survey on Kickstarter. He does. I got to message him. Mighty Mouse versus Hoppy the Marvel Bunny. I like the French. Oh, French Revolution. Oh! The Scarlet Pimpernel is in the French. That is a really
Bugs is LGBT. You know,
I got a board game set in the French Revolution, and I tell you, we will be fist fighting by the end of that game. It is a mean, nasty game.
Is it?
Bugs is more virtuous character, but I think Daffy is chaotic neutral. The original Daffy is chaotic neutral. Then he became like evil.
The original Bugs was nuts, and then Chuck Jones took him over, and that's the Bugs we really like.
Yeah.
But Bugs was LGBT. He was constantly cross-dressing.
Yep. Every character was, You put on a wig, put on lipstick, and then...
That's half of Monty Python's humor.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So I think...
Logic's finest.
Yeah, everybody...
Oh, that's great.
I for the most part, I don't like Disney. Like I don't like even pre-woke Disney. I just didn't like their characters. They were just like
I like the computer with tennis shoes.
But I mean some of the Disney movies. Like
he was great in Escape from New York, the computer with tennis shoes.
When he was in every one of those, when I was a kid, we went to the movie slot. We saw every one of those movies that he was in, and they'd rerun them. Like, oh, this one's from 1968. They didn't care. They're going to rerun in 1974. We watched. It was so it wasn't the classic Disney animation, but they make these great all family, like the Shaggy DA type of movies that they don't really make. They can't make anything that's not cynical and snarky.
The only man to make Charles Bronson cry.
Excuse me?
Yeah, you know the story that Kurt Russell's the only person who ever made Charles Bronson cry.
I never heard this story.
You know that story? I can't remember the film they worked on together when Kurt Russell's child actor and Charles Bronson was in it, right? And so Kurt Russell, it was Charles Bronson's birthday, and Kurt Russell brought him a gift. and Charles Bronson reacted very, very strangely to it. So took it, didn't know what to say, and then left in a big hurry. I may be telling this story slightly wrong, so if anyone wants to jump in, please do. But later on, he found out. So Charles Bronson grew up very, very poor, right? He was the son of Lithuanian immigrants. He was very poor. Like he very rare. I mean, it wasn't until he joined the armed forces that he ate 3 meals a day, right? He had to wear a dress to school sometimes because they only had, clothes for one child. So Charles Bronson had never had a birthday present before.
Right. It was his first birthday present.
Yeah. And Kurt Russell, as a child actor, had given him his first birthday present. And he had to leave because he had to break down and cry.
Because, he's a tough
That's
guy.
the version of the story I heard.
I heard that. Yeah, I pretty much the same story.
Pretty interesting story.
This is a good one. Daffy Duck versus Donald Duck. And then Howard the Duck just laughs at them both.
First Uncle Scrooge.
This is coming up. Because next week I will do the Harry Potter versus
DuckTales.
Daffy versus Donald is a really good one. It's good for so many reasons.
Didn't we get that in Who Framed Roger Rabbit with the dueling pianos?
It's been so
long. That's not as cut and dry. Daffy and Donald. Donald's has had some.
That's what I'm saying. That's a clever one.
Doubts of being really good.
They wouldn't make Johnny Appleseed in this day and age. What do you mean by that? Is there a Disney Johnny Appleseed movie?
They wouldn't make Harrison
movie. All right. Well, I think we've been going on long enough. It's been almost 2.5 hours. We'll start with RR. Anything you want to promote? Anything you want to say before?
Well, no, I'm not really a content creator. I mean, I'm only doing. This is one of the few things I actually do in English. So, yeah, great. Thanks for having me on, John. If anyone out there hasn't got a copy of John's comic, I got an electronic copy because I live on the other side of the planet. Totally worth your time. Really enjoyed it. Great fun storytelling.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
10 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
That's me.
Stifling, anything you want to promote, push, talk about that I didn't give you a chance to talk?
Well, tomorrow I will be doing my usual 15. Well, I try to keep it at 15 minutes, but I'll do my usual 15-minute pre-recorded video at the bar while I ramble while I'm working on something. And then tomorrow night we have part 2 of the nomination show for the chat with Danger Vanessa, Amanda B, and Statistical Zero.
Are you on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Could you make sure you send me the link? I really want to watch that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make sure I.
Yeah.
I've
been on. I'm in the chat, in the chat part of the chat. It's a fun show.
Cool. I just thought of a really good
frustration too.
Since Stippling goes to the bar every week, how about we do Stippling versus his liver?
Stippling doesn't drink.
I don't drink.
I'm just joking.
At the bar. It's fascinating to me. Absolutely fascinating.
That
was like my first question. I'm watching this guy. How the heck are you drawing at the bar?
Right. How are you drawing
it?
So you don't drink.
But I love it. I love the whole idea of it.
I wish that I didn't worry about copyright claiming. I would not have the mic on, and you could listen to everybody bitching and screaming with the music going on. And if they still did bands at Saturday nights, I guarantee you I'd be streaming when you would all the activity. So
have a blessed day. I love that we get the blessing from Zach Dan. John, you should watch the Scarecrow with Patrick McGowan. I never heard of it, but I love Patrick McGowan. He's number 6. And he's also Longshanks. So, Marcus, anything you want to promote?
Well, I'm always working for Mythic Americas. It looks like in the new year I might be doing something with Creative Faye. We'll see. I don't know. I can't say much. I shouldn't even say this much about it because I don't have permission to. It's her stuff. So, but I don't have anything specific to promote.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. So next week we'll do Tim Hunter versus Harry Potter. I think that's interesting for a bunch of reasons. We could find a lot to talk about, and then I really do like Daffy Duck versus Donald Duck. I can't believe we didn't think of that. And I get a bunch preloaded in my head for whatever we can't think of them. The Great Gazoo versus Mixelplick.
Green Arrow versus Hawkeye. Have you done that one?
But that's a good one to bring up too.
That's almost too natural.
So. I know that. And they would hate each other.
Too natural.
Makes
too much sense.
They would hate each other. Well, classic classic Lady Alpha Man guys would hate each other.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're probably Mr. Sensitive right now. Have 2 shots of Jägermeister and then try to draw. There we go.
Well, they have to be going everywhere.
Stippling takes a shot. How's that?
If anything, it's just going to help because it's like, well,
He's stippling with the sponge. This is easy.
yeah.
Your pointillism be all over the place.
And thanks for the fish. And
You better hope Gary Martin doesn't start stippling.
oh wow,
Nice.
Oh wow,
Beautiful.
brilliant.
So yeah, I want to touch this up. So
that is nice.
You better hope Gary Martin doesn't start stippling, Vaughn. So he blow everybody away. Oh, I'm going to do splatter. Greatest thing anybody's ever seen. Oh my goodness.
If I was going to do Jimmy Olsen, it would definitely be Jimmy Olsen versus Rick Jones.
I'll tell you something. I am so glad I backed that book with Gary Martin. It has helped me out so much.
Oh yeah, that's he's amazing. Yeah, I had his original inking book. I didn't get his other book. I had trouble backing. I can back on Fund My Comic now, but when he did it, I had trouble backing on it on Fund My Comic. I was like, he's not an Indiegogo. What did he do?
No, I've learned so much from that book because there's a couple pieces where he shows you the pencils and then the finished piece, and you look at the pencils and go, how the hell do you take the pencils and turn it into this?
Yeah.
I look at it and go, thank you, because my pencils look like his, but the inks look completely different. So it's like one of those where like, okay, I'm on the right track.
All right, I'm gonna get going. People.
Okay. Good night.
Night.
Thanks again for having me on.
All right, thanks a lot, everybody. And this Sunday I do Sunday Comics at 10 a.m. Eastern, and I'm going to do Marvel Team Up 83. This
Part 2, yeah, that's terrific.
Story that I started next week. This is a good one. The original, yeah. These some good. Remember these for next time. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Good night.
Night.